Colorblindness. Most people grow up believing one simple truth. The more colors you see, the richer your world becomes. It's one of those invisible assumptions, so deeply rooted that hardly anyone ever stops to question it. Like the idea that more is always better, that a wider spectrum means a fuller life. But what if that's wrong? What if the people we think are missing something are actually experiencing the world in a way the rest of us can't? What if by seeing fewer colors, they're seeing deeper truths? Details that color-drenched eyes overlook. Patterns hidden in plain sight. Realities most people are too dazzled to notice. In a society obsessed with color, with reds that scream urgency, blues that whisper calm, yellows that demand attention, maybe those who aren't hypnotized by it actually see a purer form of the world. A world stripped of distractions. A world closer to what's really there. Today, let's step outside of everything we think we know about sight, beauty, and difference, and into a reality that's been hiding just beyond the rainbow. Imagine this. You're standing in front of your closet in the morning, already late for work. You reach for a shirt, one you think is safe, professional, neutral. Maybe gray, maybe light blue. But there's a quiet doubt, a whisper in your mind that never fully goes away. Is this actually the color I think it is? Or am I about to walk into a meeting dressed like an optical illusion? So you second guess. You squint. You shuffle through other shirts, feeling like you're playing a game rigged against you, one you never asked to join. And when you finally make your choice, there's still that tiny seed of unease growing in your chest. What if I got it wrong again? Or picture sitting at a family dinner. Your aunt proudly asks you to pass her the green serving spoon. There are 3 spoons on the table. They all look vaguely similar. You hesitate, scanning for clues, shape, position, anything, because the one thing you can't trust right now is your own eyes. Everyone else acts like it's the simplest thing in the world. No one notices your pause. No one sees the quiet anxiety blooming under your polite smile. That's the part of color blindness no one really talks about. It's not just about confusing red and green on a traffic light or asking, is this blue or purple? In the middle of a craft project. It's about trust, or the slow erosion of it. It's about second-guessing your instincts in tiny, invisible ways all day long. It's about the private moments of embarrassment you can't explain, and the even deeper fear that maybe you're somehow less. And because the world is built for the majority, for those who see the full spectrum, your struggles stay invisible. You adapt. You find workarounds. You smile. You move on. But deep down, there's a quiet kind of loneliness. Not because you see differently, but because nobody else even notices you do. But here's the twist no one ever mentions. The very thing the world calls a limitation can, under the right light, become a hidden advantage, a kind of secret strength few even realize exists. Because when you aren't distracted by a riot of colors fighting for your attention, something incredible happens. You start noticing the patterns underneath, the subtle shifts, the quiet truths. It turns out, people with color blindness can often see things others completely miss. During World War II, commanders discovered something astonishing. Colorblind soldiers could spot camouflaged enemies better than their normal peers. Where the average soldier's eyes were fooled by patterns designed to blend into colorful environments, the colorblind soldier's brain cut straight through the illusion. Without the false comfort of matching colors, they saw what actually stood out: irregular shapes, unnatural movements, the tiniest differences in texture. It wasn't about what they lacked. It was about what they weren't distracted by. And it doesn't stop at the battlefield. In daily life, many colorblind individuals have sharper sensitivity to contrasts, to edges, to fine details that slip past most people unnoticed. They can read subtle changes in shadow and structure. They often develop stronger pattern recognition, better at detecting flaws in designs, irregularities in data, even inconsistencies in behavior. While the majority are busy soaking up the fireworks of color, the colorblind are quietly decoding the world beneath the noise. It's a different kind of vision, not lesser, not broken, different, and in many ways sharper. It's proof that nature doesn't make mistakes. It makes trade-offs. And sometimes, those trade-offs open doors that no one else even knows exist. So why doesn't the world celebrate this? Why has color blindness been framed for so long as a flaw, a defect, something to pity? Because society, like most creatures of habit, clings to the idea that whatever the majority experiences must be the standard of truth. It's easier that way. Cleaner. More comfortable. When 95 out of 100 people see the sky as blue, We write it in textbooks as a fact, as if that's the only truth that matters. When billions recognize a red stop sign instantly, we build entire systems assuming that's the natural, obvious way to live. But history is littered with stories that remind us. The majority is often wrong about what matters most. For centuries, left-handedness was seen as a defect. Some of the greatest minds, Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, were left-handers forced to adapt to a right-handed world that thought them strange. Genius rarely flows from fitting in. It comes from seeing differently, sometimes quite literally. Colorblindness, like so many other forms of difference, became misunderstood because it didn't fit the narrow template the majority laid down. It challenged the comforting idea that the world looks the same to everyone. It revealed, quietly but persistently, that perception is not a single shared reality. It's a fractured mosaic of many perspectives, all equally real. Maybe the real flaw isn't in the eyes of the colorblind. Maybe the real flaw is in a world too afraid to imagine that there's more than one way to see the truth. The world will keep telling you a story. It will whisper that seeing less means living less. That difference means deficiency. That unless you match the majority, you're somehow missing out. But here's what they don't understand. You were never meant to see the world like everyone else. You were built to notice what they can't. You see structure where others see spectacle. You sense patterns where others get lost in noise. You aren't drowning in endless distractions. You're tuned into a subtler, sharper reality hiding just beneath the surface. The truth is, vision has never been about how many colors you see. It's about what you notice, what you understand, what you can interpret in a world that often mistakes noise for knowledge. And the most important truths, the ones that really matter, aren't dressed in bright colors. They don't scream for your attention. They whisper quietly, waiting for the right kind of eyes to find them. The kind of eyes that aren't tricked by the surface. The kind of eyes that aren't overwhelmed by the obvious. The kind of eyes that were made for something deeper. Your difference isn't a flaw. It's a rare form of perception, a way of engaging with the world that the majority may never fully understand. But that doesn't make it any less powerful. So the next time you hesitate, wondering if you're somehow less than because you don't see the full spectrum, remember this. You don't need to see every color to see the world clearly. You were never meant to fit inside the rainbow. You were meant to see beyond it. Maybe, just maybe, you were built to see what really matters. ADHD. Everyone thinks focus is about sitting still, holding one thought in place like a delicate glass ball. But what if that idea is completely wrong? What if focus isn't about stillness, but about movement? What if the mind that leaps, darts, and dances is actually closer to how true creativity, and even survival, is supposed to work? For centuries, we've been told that straight lines are the only way to move forward. But nature doesn't move in straight lines. Rivers twist and bend. Trees sprawl and branch in unpredictable directions. Lightning zigs and zags across the sky, finding its own wild path. Maybe, just maybe, a brain that refuses to sit still isn't broken. Maybe it's wired for a world that's far more dynamic than we've been led to believe. Today, we're not here to talk about ADHD as a flaw to be corrected. We're here to uncover the hidden side of it, the one no one ever taught you to see, the side that might just flip your entire understanding of your mind and your power. Imagine being a child in a classroom, your legs bouncing under the desk, your mind buzzing louder than the ticking of the clock. The teacher's words float around you like clouds. You catch one here, another there, but mostly, your brain is racing ahead, exploring places no one else even seems to notice. You want to pay attention. You try to sit still. You try to fit into the invisible mold everyone else seems built for. But it feels like trying to hold onto a waterfall with your bare hands. Or imagine sitting down to write an email, determined to finally tackle your list. And within 5 minutes, you've opened 6 tabs, half-drafted a text message, remembered you need to order dog food, and mentally planned an entire vacation. Then the shame creeps in. The feeling that you've somehow failed at something that should be easy. The world treats it like a character flaw. You just need more discipline. You're lazy. Why can't you just focus like everyone else? But they don't see the invisible storm you're battling every single day. The guilt of letting people down when you know you're capable of so much more. The frustration of feeling misunderstood, even by yourself. The exhaustion of constantly wrestling with your own brain. A brain that feels like it's moving at 200 miles per hour in a world built for 30. And slowly, After enough missed deadlines, forgotten birthdays, unfinished projects, you start to ask the question no one should ever have to ask about themselves. Am I broken? But what if the real problem isn't you? What if the real problem is that the world never made space for minds like yours? Minds that were never meant to sit still, but to fly. Here's what almost no one tells you. The same mind that struggles to sit still is built for discovery. The same mind that jumps from thought to thought is designed to make connections faster than most can even follow. Studies on divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple, unique ideas from a single concept, show that individuals with ADHD consistently outperform their peers. In other words, when it comes to creativity, innovation, and problem solving, ADHD minds aren't just participating, they're leading. You see, the world loves to praise out-of-the-box thinking. They put it on job descriptions, in mission statements, in TED Talks. But what they don't realize is that some people are born without a box at all. In high-pressure environments, places where you have to think fast, adapt quickly, find new angles, ADHD brains can thrive in ways the so-called normal mind struggles to keep up with. Emergency rooms, entrepreneurial startups, creative industries, crisis management, all demand the kind of rapid, flexible thinking that ADHD minds excel at. Your impulsivity? In a different light, it's called intuition, the ability to make quick, often accurate decisions without being paralyzed by overthinking. Your distractibility? It's the radar that picks up signals others miss, spotting problems, possibilities, and ideas that are invisible to more narrowly focused minds. Your hyperfocus, that unstoppable, almost magical tunnel vision that kicks in when you care deeply about something? It's a superpower. The ability to dive deeper, work harder, and master complex tasks faster than anyone expects when you're in your zone. This isn't brokenness. This is specialization. You weren't built to function like everyone else. You were built to operate in a different mode altogether, faster, looser, and often, if given the right environment, better. Maybe the real issue isn't your mind. Maybe the real issue is that society keeps handing you a hammer and asking you to be a nail, when you were born to be lightning. The reason ADHD has been so misunderstood isn't because it's new. It's because society built its definition of normal around systems that reward conformity. Schools, factories, traditional offices, all structured to favor people who can sit still for hours, follow rigid routines, suppress emotional energy, and think linearly. It wasn't about truth. It was about control. If you fit into the mold, you were called good. If you didn't, you were called trouble. And for centuries, the world mistook convenience for correctness. Majority bias whispered that the way most people operate must be the right way. If you didn't match, then you were the one who needed fixing. But history tells a different story. Many of the world's greatest revolutionaries, thinkers, artists, scientists, and entrepreneurs displayed what today we might recognize as traits of ADHD. They weren't praised for fitting in. They were celebrated for breaking out. They saw what others missed because they couldn't stop moving, questioning, connecting. Because their minds refused to be tamed by tradition. Society built cages for the sake of comfort. But the outliers, the ones with wild, electric minds, they built new worlds. You were never supposed to fit perfectly inside someone else's system. You were meant to imagine something better. You've been told for so long that your mind is a problem to be fixed, a flaw to be hidden, a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. But what if that's the biggest misconception of all? What if the very way your brain moves, fast, restless, vibrant, isn't a mistake? What if it's the design of a mind built to explore, invent, and create? You don't need to quiet your thoughts. You don't need to force yourself into a box that was never made for you. The world needs minds like yours. Minds that see connections where others see chaos. Minds that are brave enough to chase 100 ideas at once, to dive deep into passion with unmatched intensity. Minds that, when given space and understanding, can change the course of history. Imagine your energy as a river, not meant to be dammed or still, but meant to carve new paths, nourish unexpected places, and keep flowing in surprising, beautiful directions. The struggles you face, the frustration, the exhaustion, the doubt, are not signs of weakness. They're the growing pains of a powerful, unique way of experiencing the world. You were never built to settle for the shallow end of the pool. You were born to dive deep, to swim against the current, and to explore waters others never even dared to touch. So if you've been doubting yourself, wondering if you're broken or less than, pause and listen. Your ADHD is not a limitation. It's a different kind of clarity. a unique lens, a force that, when embraced, can ignite brilliance. You don't need to change who you are. You need to change how you see who you are. Maybe, just maybe, you weren't designed to fit the mold. Maybe you were designed to break it. And in breaking it, you show the world a new way to be free. Dyslexia. We live in a world that worships speed, fast reading, fast answers, fast success. So when someone struggles to read quickly, to spell perfectly, to keep up with the endless stream of text, the world quietly, cruelly, labels them as less. But what if that's completely wrong? What if dyslexia isn't a sign of brokenness, but a sign of a brain operating on a deeper, richer frequency? One that sees the world in ways the fast readers never could. In a society obsessed with straight lines and simple paths, dyslexic minds may be the ones seeing the landscapes everyone else misses. The problem isn't how these minds work. The problem is how little the world understands them. And once you glimpse the hidden side of dyslexia, you may never look at intelligence the same way again. Imagine this. You're sitting in a classroom, a book open in front of you, and the teacher calls your name. Your heart drops. You know what's coming. You start to read aloud. The words blur, dance, rearrange themselves like mischievous puzzle pieces. Every sentence feels like a minefield. Every mispronounced word a ticking bomb waiting for the snickers and sighs. It's not that you don't understand the story. You do. In fact, you can see it unfold in your mind like a vivid movie. You feel the emotions of the characters more deeply than anyone else in the room. But the words on the page, they betray you. Later, maybe it's writing an email at work. You read it 5 times before hitting send, terrified you missed a letter, a word, a mistake that will make someone roll their eyes behind their screen. Or maybe it's standing in a bookstore, wanting desperately to dive into a story that everyone else seems to enjoy so easily. But knowing that for you, the first few pages will feel like climbing a mountain without ropes. People say, just try harder. As if you haven't already been trying harder than anyone else in the room. As if sheer willpower could rewire the architecture of your mind. The exhaustion builds. The second guessing becomes constant. Not just about spelling or reading, but about everything. Am I smart enough? Am I enough? But beneath all that doubt, there's a quiet truth most never see. Your mind isn't slow. It's racing. Vivid, alive, just in a way the world never taught you to trust. And maybe it's time to stop apologizing for the way you were built. What if the very thing that made reading hard made other things astonishingly easy? What if your brain, in sidestepping the beaten path, had been building muscles most people don't even know exist? Research shows that dyslexic minds are wired for big-picture thinking. While others get caught up in the small details, dyslexic thinkers naturally zoom out, spotting patterns, imagining possibilities, and connecting dots that seem invisible to everyone else. Visual thinking, spatial reasoning, 3D imagination. These aren't workarounds. They are superpowers. Many architects, engineers, filmmakers, designers, and entrepreneurs credit dyslexia for their ability to see the unseen, to imagine structures, systems, and stories that no one else could have built. When others follow the rules, dyslexic minds ask, what if we made new ones? Take Richard Branson, Albert Einstein, Steven Spielberg. Each faced early struggles with reading, and each went on to transform their fields, not despite their dyslexia, but in many ways because of it. It turns out, being forced to navigate the world differently builds more than resilience. It builds creativity, problem-solving, and a kind of mental flexibility that thrives where linear thinking fails. You were never just fighting through letters. You were training to reimagine what was possible. The world doesn't move forward because everyone follows the map. It moves forward because some people can see new landscapes entirely, and dyslexic minds are often the first to glimpse them. So how did we get it so backwards? How did a gift for innovation, vision, and deep thinking become labeled as a learning disability? It starts with the way society defines normal. Centuries ago, when formal education systems were created, they prioritized rote memorization and sequential processing, skills that fit the demands of the time, factories, bureaucracy, assembly lines. Speed reading and flawless handwriting were prized. If you couldn't march to that rhythm, you were seen as less capable. But normal was never about truth. It was about efficiency, mass-producing workers, not nurturing minds. Dyslexic thinkers didn't fit that mold. They weren't broken. They were just different in ways the system wasn't built to recognize, let alone celebrate. And it wasn't just school. Throughout history, Many trailblazers, inventors, artists, leaders, were misunderstood in their own time because their minds moved differently. They didn't memorize. They imagined. They didn't replicate. They reinvented. The truth is, society often mistakes difference for deficiency. It confuses what's common with what's correct. But history shows us, again and again, the people who can't follow the old paths are the ones who end up creating new worlds. You were never broken. You were never lacking. You were simply built for a different kind of greatness. In a world obsessed with speed and surface, you were wired for depth, for vision, for seeing the patterns under the noise. You are not a mistake to be corrected. You are an architect of new possibilities. You are the mind that questions when others conform, that imagines when others copy, that dreams when others settle. Think about it. The greatest breakthroughs, the ones that changed everything, didn't come from the people who fit imperfectly. They came from the outliers. From those brave enough to think sideways, upside down, and inside out. From people just like you. Dyslexia is not a cage, it's a key. A key to the parts of the world that haven't been explored yet. A key to questions not yet asked, solutions not yet dreamed, stories not yet told. You don't have to apologize for the way you see. You don't have to hide it, fix it, or force it into shapes it was never meant to take. Because the truth is, you don't just read the world differently. You create it differently. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what the world needs most. Anxiety. We've been taught to see anxiety as a flaw, as if a racing mind, a pounding heart, a cautious instinct are signs that something is wrong with us. But what if the opposite were true? What if anxiety isn't a defect, but a form of rare, powerful intelligence, a hidden gift designed to keep us awake in a sleeping world? What if the very thing you've been taught to silence is the very thing meant to sharpen you? Imagine stepping out the door every morning, but instead of feeling excited, you feel like you're entering a battlefield. You scan every detail without even meaning to, the expressions on faces, the tones in voices, the tiny signs of danger that no one else seems to notice. Your mind builds possible futures at lightning speed. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I mess up? What if something bad happens and I'm not ready? It's exhausting, like carrying an invisible backpack full of what-ifs that you can never put down. The world around you moves casually, blissfully unaware of the million calculations running in your head at any given moment. They tell you to relax, to not overthink it, as if you haven't already tried 1,000 times just to switch it off, as if it's a faucet you can tighten with a wrench. But it's not that simple. Anxiety isn't just a feeling, it's a full-body experience. The quickened breath, the tensed muscles, the mind that spins stories faster than you can untangle them. And worst of all, the quiet, painful thought you never say out loud. Maybe there's something wrong with me. You start hiding your panic behind smiles. You become an expert at appearing calm while a storm tears through your chest. You learn to suppress your instincts, question your own perceptions, even apologize for your own sensitivity. But what if your anxiety isn't a glitch? What if it's a signal, a powerful, misunderstood signal, that you were never meant to mute? What if the world needs your sensitivity more than it knows? Here's the truth most people miss. Anxiety is not just fear, it's awareness sharpened to a blade. People with anxiety often notice danger before anyone else sees it coming. They pick up on subtle cues, the hesitation in someone's voice, the tension in a room, the hidden risks buried in a decision. Their brains are wired for rapid pattern recognition, quick environmental scanning, hyper-detail analysis. It's not weakness, it's vigilance, it's survival. It's the mind running full diagnostics at speeds most people couldn't dream of. Throughout history, this trait wasn't just useful, it was vital. The anxious ones were often the protectors, the early warning systems of their tribes and communities. They sensed storms before the first dark cloud. They noticed predators before the first sound in the brush. They could anticipate conflict, trouble, or opportunity long before it arrived. In fact, research shows that people with higher baseline anxiety often perform better in situations that demand quick, accurate threat detection and complex problem solving. In the modern world, where immediate threats are rarer and social complexity is higher, the anxious mind hasn't disappeared. It has simply adapted. You see possibilities others overlook. You feel changes others dismiss. You prepare when others gamble. You are not weak. You are finely tuned, built to think fast, care deeply, and anticipate the future in ways most people can't even comprehend. When you see anxiety not as a flaw but as a supersense, a kind of hyperintuition. It changes everything. So why, if anxiety is such a powerful trait, has society spent so long treating it like a disease? The answer is simple and sad. Because the modern world is built for comfort, not caution. We live in a culture that worships ease, quick decisions, instant gratification. People don't want to hear about risk. They don't want to prepare for storms they can't yet see. So when someone says, "Wait, something feels wrong," the world often brushes them off, labels them overthinkers, worriers, paranoid. Majority bias plays a huge role here. When most people don't feel constant vigilance, they assume that vigilance itself is abnormal, defective. But history tells another story. Some of the greatest innovators, leaders, and protectors were those who worried when others slept, questioned when others accepted, saw complexity when others saw only simplicity. Society has always misunderstood its visionaries. The ones who carried warnings no one wanted to hear. The ones who thought differently, felt differently, and perceived danger or opportunity in ways the majority couldn't. Anxiety is not a malfunction. It's a deeper perception. And for those who have it, it's proof you were built to see more, not less. Anxiety, at its core, is not your enemy. It is your ally, a vigilant, watchful force inside you, tirelessly scanning the horizon, quietly preparing you for storms before they break. It means you care enough to think deeply. It means you sense enough to protect what matters. It means you're awake in ways many never are. The world teaches us to numb, to rush, to laugh off every fear. But maybe your sensitivity, your ability to see cracks before they break wide open, is not something you need to fix. Maybe it's something the world desperately needs. The goal is not to erase anxiety. It's to listen to it wisely, to harness its power without letting it flood the system. To know when it's whispering useful truths, and when it's echoing old fears that no longer serve you. You are not here to be less sensitive. You are here to master a gift most people will never even understand. You were not built to float aimlessly through life. You were built to navigate it, fiercely, bravely, and with an instinct most people would call magic if they could feel it even once. You don't need to silence your anxiety to live fully. You just need to recognize it for what it truly is, a different kind of strength. The world may have told you that anxiety makes you fragile, but look closer. It means you were made to feel more, notice more, and endure more. You are not fragile. You are forged. And that is a superpower. Clumsiness. What if clumsiness isn't a sign of weakness, but a secret strength? What if those who stumble and fumble aren't losing the race of life, but actually racing ahead in ways others can't see? In a world that prizes control and perfection, maybe clumsiness is the quiet rebellion of a mind that refuses to be tamed. Maybe the very thing you've been told to hide is exactly what makes you unstoppable. Clumsiness isn't just about bruised knees and broken coffee mugs. It's about the slow, creeping doubt that follows you into rooms, into conversations, into the tiny moments when you wish you could just be smaller, be smoother, be less. It's the way you hesitate before reaching for a glass at a dinner party, calculating the distance like a bomb technician, because somewhere deep down, you don't trust your own hands. It's the glance people exchange when you bump into a table, the awkward chuckle you force out to seem like you're fine, even though your face burns. It's the clothes you hesitate to wear because you fear snagging them on a door handle. The backpack you don't fully trust yourself to swing over one shoulder without knocking into someone. The moment you drop your keys again and feel the tiny, unnecessary apology rise in your throat before you even think about it. And it's invisible, too. The world only sees the surface, the toppled water glass, the stubbed toe, the apology. They don't see the second-guessing that comes later. Lying in bed, replaying the day's small mishaps like failures written in permanent ink. They don't see how you shrink yourself, not just your steps, but your voice, your presence. Thinking maybe, if you just take up a little less space, you'll break a little less of the world around you. Clumsiness, you've been told, is a flaw. A fault line running through you. Proof that you're too much for this world. But what if it's not a flaw at all? What if it's the very first clue that you're built for something the careful, calculated world wasn't designed to understand? What if I told you that clumsiness, that awkward fumbling you've been embarrassed about, is actually your brain working overtime in ways most people never tap into? Think about it. Your brain is juggling so many things at once, balancing sensory input, coordinating movement, processing emotions, even predicting the next second before it happens. For someone clumsy, This isn't a simple glitch. It's a sign of high-speed processing, rapid adaptation, and a mind that's constantly scanning, experimenting, learning. Studies show that people who are naturally more physically expressive, who move with less caution, often have brains wired for creativity and problem-solving. They explore the world in 3 dimensions, learning through trial and error, embracing the unexpected. This means they are often quicker to adapt when plans change, better at improvising, and uniquely skilled at thinking outside the box. In fact, some of the world's greatest inventors, artists, and innovators were notoriously clumsy. Thomas Edison, known for his wild experiments and countless failures, never let a stumble stop him from inventing. Albert Einstein was famously absent-minded and awkward in his physicality. Yet his mind was a powerhouse of revolutionary ideas. Clumsiness isn't just a side effect. It's often a byproduct of brains that don't just follow the path, but forge new ones. Military research even points to enhanced spatial awareness and faster reaction times in people who show less physical precision in controlled environments. The kind of minds that think in motion, constantly recalibrating and ready for surprises. So that clumsy stumble? It's not just a mistake. It's a signal that your brain is doing something extraordinary, embracing chaos, learning fast, and creating a unique kind of intelligence. You don't just survive clumsiness, you thrive within it. If clumsiness can be a secret strength, then why does society treat it like a weakness? Because society loves order. It craves predictability. From a young age, we're taught to fit into neat boxes, sit still, walk straight, speak carefully, perform flawlessly. The world is built for control, for conformity, for smooth operations. But here's the catch. Those standards are created by the majority, and majority means normal only by numbers, not by truth. Throughout history, the clumsy, the awkward, the ones who couldn't stay perfectly balanced or perfectly silent, they were often misunderstood, misjudged, or worse, dismissed. We confuse coordination with competence. We mistake smoothness for strength. Yet many of the greatest minds, the groundbreaking thinkers and creators, were once seen as outliers, clumsy children who didn't fit the mold, distracted dreamers who bumped into walls. Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, and even Marie Curie had quirks and eccentricities that baffled their peers. Their clumsiness in the physical world was just one piece of a much larger puzzle, a mind that wasn't content with the ordinary. Society's mistake was to define normal as a narrow range of acceptable behaviors, ignoring the brilliant diversity of human experience. The truth is, clumsiness reveals the beautifully imperfect dance of a mind that won't settle, a mind built for discovery, for questioning, for breaking new ground. History isn't shaped by those who play it safe and stay perfectly balanced. It's shaped by those who stumble, fall, and rise again, often in the most unexpected ways. So here's the truth no one tells you. You don't need to be graceful, poised, or perfect to leave your mark on the world. You don't need to glide through life without a stumble to prove your worth. Your clumsiness, those trips, those spills, those moments when the world feels just a bit too chaotic, they're not your flaws. They're part of your story, your unique rhythm. Imagine for a moment that every stumble was a step forward in disguise. That every awkward moment was your mind's way of exploring, experimenting, and creating something new, something no one else could have seen. Maybe the real balance isn't about never falling, but about how you rise when you do. Maybe clumsiness is the language of a mind that refuses to be boxed in, that's too curious to stay still, too vibrant to be tamed. You were never built to be flawless. You were built to be resilient, inventive, and unpredictable. So the next time you feel the weight of a misstep, remember, you are not defined by your falls. You are defined by your courage to keep moving, to keep trying, to keep creating. You don't have to hide your clumsiness. You can own it, celebrate it, and transform it into your greatest strength. Because sometimes the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people willing to embrace their imperfections and show what true strength really looks like. Maybe, just maybe, your clumsiness is the spark that will light the way for others to follow. Social awkwardness. Imagine walking into a crowded room, the chatter swirling around you like a tide you can't quite swim in. Everyone seems so sure, so effortless, laughing, connecting, exchanging glances that say, "I get you." And then there's you. The words you want to say get tangled in your mind before they even reach your lips. You replay conversations in your head, agonizing over a misplaced phrase or a silence that felt too loud. You want to join in, to be part of the flow, but instead you feel like an outsider looking in. It's not just about being shy or nervous. It's the weight of every, "Did I say the wrong thing?" or "Why can't I just be normal?" that settles quietly in your chest. It's the invisible barrier that makes you second-guess every glance, every smile, every casual comment. The world moves on, but you're stuck rewinding moments that no one else seems to notice. And while others celebrate connection with ease, you carry a quiet loneliness, the isolation of feeling different in a room full of people. You're not alone in this. Beneath the surface of social awkwardness lies a struggle that few talk about. The exhausting dance of wanting to belong while feeling like you just don't fit the rhythm. What if the very awkwardness that feels like a barrier is actually a doorway? Socially awkward people often possess a quiet superpower, an extraordinary ability to observe, to listen deeply, and to think outside the usual scripts of small talk. While others rush to fill silence or chase social status, those who stumble in conversation often see beneath the surface, catching nuances, emotions, and unspoken truths that slip by unnoticed. Studies show that people who are socially awkward frequently excel in empathy and creative problem-solving. They're not just fumbling through social cues. They're processing a world so rich and complex that it can overwhelm quick social exchanges. That depth of thought and feeling opens doors to originality, innovation, and profound connection, just not in the ways society usually expects. Think of the artists, writers, scientists, and thinkers who seemed awkward or out of place, yet changed the world by listening to different rhythms. Their awkwardness was not a flaw, but a kind of social sensitivity, an ability to perceive the world more honestly, without the masks of conformity. And it's not just creativity. People with social awkwardness often develop resilience, a kind of armor forged by navigating rejection and self-doubt. That resilience can fuel fierce loyalty, authentic friendships, and a life lived more genuinely, less dictated by performative social games. In short, social awkwardness isn't just surviving differently. It's experiencing human connection in ways most people never get to see. For centuries, society has measured normal by ease, by charisma, by the ability to fit neatly into expected social patterns. But this majority bias has created a narrow definition of what it means to be socially successful, one that excludes vast, valuable ways of being. Social awkwardness was misunderstood because it didn't conform to the loud, fast-paced social norms dictated by culture and media. People who are quieter, slower, or more internally focused were labeled weird, shy, or broken. But history tells a different story. Many revolutionary thinkers, visionaries, and cultural icons were once written off as outcasts, misunderstood because they simply didn't march to the majority's drumbeat. From Albert Einstein's social quirks to Emily Dickinson's reclusive brilliance, the awkward often bring new perspectives that challenge the status quo. They remind us that the majority sees comfort, the outliers see possibility. Society's discomfort with social awkwardness is really a discomfort with difference itself, a failure to recognize that the mosaic of human experience requires room for every shade, rhythm, and voice. By redefining normal to include the awkward, the quiet, and the hesitant, we open the door to richer, more genuine human connections, and a world that values authenticity over performance. Imagine for a moment that everything you've been taught about social awkwardness, the shame, the embarrassment, the isolation, was simply a misreading of your true nature. What if, instead of being a social glitch, your awkwardness was a secret strength, quietly shaping the way you see and move through the world? You don't need to blend in or smooth over every awkward moment to have value. In fact, those moments, those honest, imperfect flashes, are the threads that weave authenticity into human connection. They break through superficial chatter and invite realness, the kind of connection that doesn't come from rehearsed smiles or practiced charm. Your social awkwardness gives you a unique lens, one that sees the spaces others overlook. The hesitation before a word, the nervous glance, the tiny gesture that reveals more than 1,000 polished sentences. It's a quiet power, a way of sensing the world that demands empathy and patience. From others, yes, but most importantly, from yourself. So, what if the awkward silences aren't voids but openings? What if the stumbles and missteps aren't failures, but invitations to be seen as you truly are? Maybe you don't need to mask or fix your social awkwardness. Maybe you were built this way, to feel deeper, to think differently, to connect on your own authentic terms. The world often rushes past, chasing smoothness and ease. But you, with all your quirks and pauses, offers something rare, honesty. And in a world starved for it, that is a gift beyond measure. So next time you feel the weight of being different, remember, you're not broken. You're not less. You are a quiet revolution, a living reminder that true connection grows not from perfection, but from courage, the courage to be yourself. Maybe, just maybe, your social awkwardness is exactly what makes you unforgettable. Introversion. Everyone assumes the loudest voice in the room is the strongest. But what if that's exactly where we've been looking wrong all along? What if the quiet ones, the introverts, aren't hiding because they're afraid, but because they're tuned into a deeper, richer frequency that most of us never even hear? In a world obsessed with noise, speed, and endless connection, introversion is often misunderstood as weakness, shyness, or social failure. But what if it's the very opposite? What if being quiet means seeing more, thinking deeper, and feeling things in ways the world desperately needs? Imagine walking into a bustling room filled with laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses. The air feels electric, but every sound presses in on you, like static on a radio. Your heart races, not because of excitement, but exhaustion. The endless small talk, the eye contact, the need to be on. It's overwhelming. You try to smile, to join the conversation, but inside you're shrinking, retreating into a silent corner where you can finally breathe. The party goes on, but you feel invisible, misunderstood, as if your silence is a flaw everyone notices, but no one talks about. Or think about meetings, classrooms, social events, where talking fast and loud is the currency of attention. You have thoughts, ideas, emotions, but somehow they get lost in the noise. You second-guess every word, worried you'll interrupt, seem awkward, or simply not fit in. This isn't just being shy. It's a profound disconnect between how the world wants you to be and how you truly operate. You feel drained after social interactions, even though you crave connection. You struggle to explain your need for quiet and space, because society often labels it as antisocial or odd. The pressure to perform, to keep up, to speak up, it weighs on you like a heavy fog. You're not alone in this feeling. Many introverts wrestle with the invisible burden of living in a world designed for extroverts. A world where silence is often mistaken for emptiness and reflection is confused with disinterest. But here's the thing, this struggle, this quiet battle you fight every day, it's not a weakness. It's the hidden backdrop for a different kind of strength, waiting to be uncovered. What if I told you that the very things you struggle with, the quiet moments, the need for solitude, the thoughtful silence, are actually your secret superpowers? Introverts have a unique way of experiencing the world, while extroverts may thrive on external stimulation and fast-paced interaction. Introverts' brains process information differently, deeply and thoroughly. Studies in neuroscience reveal that introverts have a heightened sensitivity to dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. This means they find intense social activity less rewarding and more draining, but it also means they excel at deep focus and reflective thinking. Think of the great thinkers, creators, and leaders, Albert Einstein, Rosa Parks, Bill Gates. Many were introverts. Their ability to step back, reflect, and think quietly gave them insight others missed. They weren't just quiet. They were deeply observant, processing details beneath the surface. In the military, introverted leaders have been valued for their calm under pressure and strategic thinking. Their capacity to listen, analyze, and anticipate without rushing to action can turn the tide in critical moments. On a smaller scale, introverts have an uncanny ability to notice patterns, nuances in behavior, or subtle shifts in tone that others overlook. This quiet awareness builds empathy and wisdom, a kind of emotional intelligence that isn't loud or flashy, but profoundly impactful. And here's the twist. While extroverts may shine in crowds, introverts often build stronger, deeper relationships because they invest time and attention into meaningful connections, not superficial ones. Their patience and listening skills create trust and understanding that last. In a world that prizes speed and volume, introverts quietly wield a powerful advantage. One of depth over breadth, calm over chaos, insight over impulse. So, why has society misunderstood introversion for so long? The answer lies in the way cultures define normal and success. Our world has become extrovert-centric, a society built on constant connection, networking, and fast communication. Schools reward participation and outward enthusiasm. Workplaces celebrate bold, vocal leadership. Media glorifies the charismatic and gregarious. This majority bias skews our perception, making introversion seem like a problem to fix rather than a natural variation of human wiring. Historically, introverts were often labeled shy, awkward, or antisocial, words that carry stigma and misunderstanding. Yet this is a narrow view that overlooks the strengths introversion brings. Consider this. Many of the greatest innovators, inventors, and visionaries were once seen as misfits or quiet weirdos. Nikola Tesla, Emily Dickinson, J.K. Rowling. People who changed the world by quietly working behind the scenes, thinking deeply, and breaking molds. Society only recognized their genius after stepping beyond the extroverted norms. Even today, the pressure to speak up and network can feel like an uphill battle for introverts, reinforcing the myth that being loud is the only way to succeed. But the truth is far richer. History repeats itself. The majority gravitates toward comfort and familiarity, often overlooking the quiet outliers who see the world differently. Introverts aren't broken. They're just wired for a different kind of brilliance. And the world desperately needs their unique vision. Imagine for a moment that the world finally sees you, not as someone who's too quiet or too reserved, but as someone who listens deeply, thinks profoundly, and acts with purpose. Imagine a world where your introversion isn't a hurdle to overcome, but a source of strength to embrace. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to make a lasting impact. You don't need to chase constant social energy to feel fulfilled or successful. In fact, the stillness you cultivate, the moments of reflection, the quiet focus, is where your true power lives. Introversion is not a flaw waiting to be fixed. It's a unique feature of your mind and soul. It's the gentle current beneath the roaring waves, steady and strong. It allows you to see connections others miss, to understand emotions others overlook, and to create solutions others never imagine. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a noisy world demanding more noise, remember this. You were built for depth. You were built to notice the subtle, to treasure the calm, and to nurture the meaningful. Maybe, just maybe, your quiet nature is the world's most needed gift. Because you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fill every silence to make your mark. Sometimes, the most powerful presence is the one who simply is listening, reflecting, understanding. So embrace your introversion, honor your rhythms, and step forward with the confidence that your way of being is not just enough, it's extraordinary. The world needs your quiet brilliance. And now, it's time for you to shine on your own terms. Motion sickness. You know the feeling all too well. You're buckled into the passenger seat, the road stretching ahead. At first, it's fine, the gentle hum of the engine, the passing trees. But then the turns come faster, the curves sharper. Your stomach twists, your head spins. A wave of nausea creeps in like an uninvited guest, and suddenly, you're trapped inside your own body, desperate to escape the relentless motion your senses refuse to forgive. Or maybe it's the first few minutes on a boat, the horizon tipping and swaying. Everyone else laughs, breathes in the salty air, so carefree. But for you, the world tilts in on itself. Your balance betrays you, your head swims, and you clutch the railing, hoping to hold yourself together. You don't want to be the one who has to sit out, who has to lie down and close their eyes while everyone else enjoys the ride. And it's not just the obvious moments. Sometimes it's the quiet embarrassments. The sudden dizziness standing up too fast, the nausea that comes without warning during a fun amusement park ride, the second-guessing your choices because you fear another wave of sickness might strike at any moment. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They're invisible barriers that isolate you from the world's movement, from the freedom others take for granted. You're not just feeling sick, you're feeling unseen. Like your body's voice is drowned out by a world that moves too fast, too smooth, and refuses to slow down for you. You've learned to hide it, to smile through the discomfort. But inside, there's a quiet frustration, a longing to be understood. Not as fragile, but as someone whose senses simply work differently. This struggle isn't talked about enough, but it shapes your world every single day. What if that queasiness, the dizziness, and the nausea are actually signs that your brain is working in ways others can't even imagine? Motion sickness is often seen as a flaw, but it reveals something remarkable, a heightened sensitivity to your body's inner signals and the world around you. Scientists explain motion sickness as a conflict between what your eyes see and what your inner ear's balance system feels. When these signals don't match, your brain sounds the alarm. But that alarm means your senses are finely tuned, detecting even the slightest mismatch between movement and stability. In a way, your body is an early warning system, more aware of shifts and changes than most. This heightened sensory awareness isn't just a burden. It's a form of superpower. Consider elite pilots and astronauts. Before they take to the skies or into orbit, they undergo intense training to manage motion sickness. Their success depends on being intimately connected to their body's signals, to sense even the faintest shift and respond. Your own sensitivity mirrors this acute awareness. Athletes, dancers, and martial artists with a low tolerance for imbalance often develop exceptional control over their movements. They harness their body's signals to refine coordination, balance, and precision. In fact, some studies suggest that those prone to motion sickness may have superior proprioception, the ability to sense their body's position in space. And beyond the physical, this heightened sensitivity can extend to emotional and environmental awareness. Your body's early alarm system may help you pick up on subtle changes in your surroundings, moods in a room, or shifts in social dynamics before others notice. So, the very thing that isolates you could also be your greatest connection. It's not about surviving motion differently. It's about perceiving reality with a richness and depth that most people simply don't experience. For centuries, society has viewed motion sickness through a narrow lens, something to be fixed, hidden, or ignored. The world demands smooth rides, steady hands, and seamless movement. Anything that disrupts this ideal is quickly labeled as weakness or deficiency. This perspective comes from the majority's experience, the ones whose bodies and brains don't send conflicting signals. When the majority defines normal based on their own senses, those who experience the world differently are sidelined. But history shows us that many of the world's greatest thinkers, creators, and innovators were considered different, fragile, or broken simply because they didn't fit the majority's mold. What society often labels as flaws are actually signs of unique wiring, different ways of processing the world. Motion sickness, in this context, is just another form of misunderstood difference. Instead of being a flaw to hide, it's a clue to a unique and valuable perspective, a perspective that challenges the mainstream, demands empathy, and expands the boundaries of what we consider normal. When we broaden our understanding, we begin to see that normal is not a fixed target but a spectrum. The outliers, the sensitive, the easily overwhelmed, they are not broken. They are part of the diverse tapestry of human experience that pushes us all to see and feel more deeply. Imagine for a moment that your sensitivity, the very thing that makes a simple car ride a challenge, is not a curse, but a secret strength. You don't just experience the world differently. You feel it more deeply, more vividly. Your body is finely tuned, like a sophisticated instrument that senses rhythms and movements others miss. This is your unique gift. You don't need to conquer or erase motion sickness to find peace with it. Instead, embrace the way your body communicates with you. Recognize that your heightened awareness is a powerful connection to your surroundings, a built-in guide that protects you and enriches your experience. Think of it like this. While others navigate life with blinders, you move through it with wide-open senses. Yes, it can be overwhelming at times, but it also means you notice details, patterns, and rhythms that remain invisible to most. And in those moments when the world spins too fast or the room sways too much, remind yourself, you're not fragile. You're finely attuned. Your journey is about learning to live in harmony with this gift, not fighting against it. By honoring your body's signals, you build resilience, intuition, and a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. So the next time motion sickness tries to hold you back, remember this. Your sensitivity is not a flaw to hide, but a feature to celebrate. It's a testament to how uniquely human you are, how beautifully complex your experience is. You don't have to fit into the narrow box of normal. Maybe, just maybe, you were built to feel more, sense more, and connect more deeply than most. And in that truth lies your strength. Embrace it. Own it. Let it guide you to a richer, fuller life on your own terms. Sleepwalking. Sleepwalking isn't just a quirky bedtime story or a harmless oddity. It's a real, sometimes frightening experience. For those who live it, the nights can feel like navigating a mysterious fog where your body moves without your will and your mind drifts in shadows. Picture this. You wake up in a room you don't recognize, or worse, on the floor after stumbling down the stairs. You can't remember how you got there. Your mind blank, your heart racing with panic. That's not just embarrassment. It's confusion and fear wrapped into one. Or think about the quiet nights when your family tiptoes around, worried you might hurt yourself, watching you like a fragile secret. The isolation is heavy. because who really understands what it's like to lose control over your own body? To wake up in a place you didn't intend to go. The guilt creeps in too. You start doubting yourself, questioning your safety, wondering if you can ever fully trust your own mind. Socially, it feels like carrying an invisible burden, something others either dismiss or judge, but rarely empathize with. You're not alone in this. Behind the closed doors and hushed conversations, countless people share this silent struggle, a puzzle wrapped in mystery, fear, and a yearning for understanding. But what if sleepwalking isn't just a glitch or a malfunction? What if, beneath the confusion and fear, there lies a hidden gift, an unexpected superpower? Scientists are beginning to uncover a fascinating truth. During sleepwalking episodes, parts of the brain that control movement wake up, while the regions responsible for conscious awareness stay asleep. This unique state allows the body to perform complex tasks, walking, even navigating spaces, without the usual filters of self-consciousness or doubt. Think of it like your mind slipping through a secret backdoor. In this altered state, the brain might be solving problems, processing memories, or rehearsing actions unconsciously. Some researchers suggest that sleepwalking episodes might even unlock a different form of creativity or insight, one not bound by logic or fear. There are stories, for example, of artists and inventors who found solutions to puzzles or problems after waking from fragmented dreams or even sleepwalking states. Their minds, freed from waking distractions, wandered in ways the fully conscious brain could never reach. In this light, sleepwalking is not merely an obstacle but a doorway, a hidden realm where your brain works behind the scenes. Instead of being broken, it's adapting, exploring, and maybe even innovating in ways we've only begun to understand. So why has society always painted sleepwalking as a problem, a danger, or even a source of shame? It's because we live in a world that prizes control, conscious awareness, and rationality above all else. The majority defines normal as fully awake, fully aware, fully in charge. Anything outside that box is labeled abnormal, misunderstood, or worse, ignored. For centuries, people who deviated from these norms, whether because of sleepwalking, dreaming differently, or thinking outside the box, were feared, marginalized, or silenced. Sleepwalking was lumped with disorders and myths, seen through the lens of superstition or simple fear. But history shows us something powerful. Many of the greatest thinkers, creators, and visionaries were once dismissed as strange or broken simply because their minds worked differently. They saw the world through perspectives the majority couldn't grasp, sometimes even while awake. Sleepwalking, then, is part of this broader pattern. It's a reminder that the normal way isn't the only way. The parts of our minds that wander in the dark, while we think we're asleep, may hold truths and strengths the waking world has yet to recognize. So here's the truth that's waiting just beneath the surface. Sleepwalking isn't a flaw. It's a mysterious feature, a glimpse into the hidden powers of your mind. You don't need to be fully awake to navigate the world, to move forward, to explore the unknown. Sometimes your brain takes a different path, a path that looks strange, even scary to the outside world, but is quietly remarkable in its own way. Imagine embracing your sleepwalking, not as something to hide or fix, but as an invitation to trust the unseen parts of yourself. Those moments when you drift through the night, moving without awareness, might be your mind's way of working through fears, unlocking creativity, or simply surviving the chaos of life. Maybe you were never meant to be fully awake all the time. Maybe you were built to slip between worlds, the conscious and the unconscious. And in that space, you hold a secret strength. The next time sleepwalking makes you feel isolated or confused, remember this. You are connected to something deeper, something ancient and quietly powerful. You are not broken. You are exploring dimensions of your mind others have yet to understand. So don't fear the dark corridors your mind wanders in the night. Instead, honor them. Because sometimes, the clearest paths forward aren't lit by the bright light of day, but discovered in the shadows where most never dare to walk. You don't need to be fully awake to live fully. Maybe, just maybe, your sleepwalking is your brain's way of showing you how to truly move. Fear of heights, acrophobia. Imagine standing on a balcony during a party, laughter and music all around you. You look out over the cityscape below, and suddenly your chest tightens. Your heart races. The ground feels miles away. You clutch the railing, trying to steady yourself, but your legs feel like jelly. You smile politely as friends encourage you to just look down. But inside, panic surges. You don't want to be the person who can't handle a little height. You want to join the thrill seekers, the adventurers who scale cliffs and look over dizzying drops without flinching. But instead, you find yourself retreating, your stomach churning with shame. Or picture hiking with friends, the summit just ahead. The path narrows along a steep edge, and suddenly the world tilts. A wave of nausea and dizziness crashes over you. Your mind screams to stop, to turn back. Everyone's counting on you to keep going, but all you want is to disappear. These moments don't just happen occasionally. They linger, casting long shadows over vacations, work, even daily life. You second-guess yourself, wondering if others see you as weak or overly cautious. The fear isolates you quietly, invisible to the outside world, but deafening inside your mind. It's a struggle nobody talks about. The shame, the isolation, the constant battle between wanting to be fearless and knowing your body won't allow it. You're not alone in this. Many carry this silent weight, misunderstood and often dismissed. But what if the story you've been told, that fear of heights is simply a flaw to fix, is only half the truth? Now, imagine if that rush of fear you feel when you stand at the edge isn't a glitch in your system, but an ancient, powerful safeguard finely tuned over millennia. Fear of heights, or acrophobia, is not just an emotional reaction. It's your brain's intricate alarm system, designed to keep you alive. Scientists have uncovered fascinating evidence that this fear triggers complex neural circuits that sharpen your senses, enhance your balance, and heighten your awareness of danger. When your heart pounds and your vision narrows, your brain is mobilizing every resource to protect you. Think about it. Early humans who lacked this fear may have taken reckless risks climbing cliffs or trees, leading to fatal falls. Those who felt that primal warning lived longer and passed down their genes. So in a way, your fear is an evolutionary advantage, a built-in life preserver. But it's more than survival. Recent studies show that people with acrophobia often have heightened spatial awareness and better judgment about dangerous situations. Their brains process depth, distance, and balance with acute precision. While others might overestimate their abilities and stumble, you approach heights with caution and respect, a wise guardian, not a timid coward. Even beyond biology, your fear gives you empathy and insight into the vulnerability of the human condition. It teaches patience and humility, qualities rare in a world obsessed with fearless conquest. Far from being broken, you carry a unique superpower, an instinct that keeps you grounded literally and figuratively, while others risk everything for a fleeting thrill. So why does society paint fear of heights as a weakness? Why are the daring celebrated while the cautious are sidelined? Because society loves simple stories, the brave hero scaling cliffs, the risk-taker conquering fear. It measures worth by numbers, how many mountains climbed, how many records broken. But it forgets one essential truth. Normal isn't one size fits all. Most people don't understand that what they call fear is a vital signal, a deeply human trait shaped by survival, biology, and personal experience. Instead, fear becomes a mark of shame, a label for those less than. History is filled with examples of people who were once dismissed for their differences, but later hailed as visionaries. From scientists who challenged norms to artists who saw the world differently. Fear of heights is no different. It's not a flaw to fix, but a form of wisdom that society has failed to recognize. By defining normal through the eyes of the fearless majority, we overlook the strengths of those who listen to their inner alarms, the guardians of balance, safety, and long-term survival. In truth, the outliers, those who feel deeply, who hesitate before leaping, often see the world with clarity the crowd misses. Their fears are not chains but compass points, guiding them through life with an uncommon grace. Your fear of heights isn't a cage, it's a key. It's a powerful reminder that your instincts are finely tuned, your mind deeply wise. You don't need to silence that voice inside telling you to pause, to step back, to think twice. That voice is your ally, a guardian born from countless generations of survival and strength. Imagine if, instead of fighting your fear, you embraced it as a guide. One that teaches you patience when the world rushes headlong into risk, that anchors you when others are swept away by reckless bravado. You hold a map others can't read, a map that shows where true safety lies in a world that often mistakes courage for recklessness. You don't have to scale every mountain or stare down every dizzying edge to live fully. In fact, maybe living fully means something different for you. A life rich with careful choices, deeper awareness, and respect for the fragility of existence. The world needs your caution, your wisdom, your respect for limits. Because in a culture obsessed with fearless leaps, You remind us all that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to jump. So next time fear rises, don't shrink away or feel small. Stand tall, knowing you're wired for something rare and profound. Your fear is a feature, a unique lens through which you see the world with clarity, balance, and an unshakable sense of what truly matters. Maybe, just maybe, you weren't built to conquer every height. Maybe you were built to see the heights that matter, the ones worth climbing, the ones worth respecting, and the ones that teach us all how to be truly grounded. Overthinking. It's late at night, and while the rest of the world drifts peacefully to sleep, your mind refuses to switch off. You replay every conversation you had that day, analyze every word you said or didn't say, agonizing over whether you came across right, or if you missed a hidden meaning. You're trapped inside a loop. What felt like a small decision becomes a vast, tangled web of what-ifs and maybes. Should you have said this? Did they mean that? What if they think I'm not good enough? It's exhausting. It's isolating. The louder your mind gets, the harder it is to trust your own instincts. And yet, you can't just flip a switch and stop. Outside, people move fast, confident in their choices, never doubting. Inside, you feel invisible, misunderstood, as if your mind is both your greatest asset and your heaviest burden. You're not alone in this struggle. Many live with this quiet storm of overthinking, wondering why their minds won't let them rest, why their thoughts spin out of control, and whether anyone else truly understands the exhausting dance inside their head. This isn't just anxiety or indecision. It's a complex experience of depth and intensity few acknowledge. But what if this struggle isn't a dead end? What if it's the beginning of something more powerful than you ever imagined? Now, let's flip the script. What if overthinking isn't a curse, but a secret weapon? Studies have shown that the very minds that spiral into endless contemplation also excel at deep analysis, pattern recognition, and complex problem solving. Overthinkers naturally sift through layers of information that most people barely notice. Their minds are finely tuned radars, detecting nuances, potential pitfalls, and opportunities hidden beneath the surface. Take creativity, for example. Some of history's greatest thinkers, Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Virginia Woolf, were known for their intense inner worlds, for thinking deeply, sometimes obsessively. Their overthinking was the fuel behind innovation and artistry. It's the ability to hold many possibilities in mind at once, to mentally simulate countless scenarios before taking action. In fact, research in psychology shows that overthinking can lead to superior planning and foresight. Overthinkers anticipate problems before they arise, creating mental safety nets that others often overlook. Their brains operate like intricate chess players, always several moves ahead. And it's not just the cognitive benefits. There's emotional intelligence, too. Overthinkers tend to be highly empathetic, understanding others' feelings and motives in ways that allow them to connect deeply, even if it feels like they're trapped in their own head. So, while it might feel like a burden, this constant mental activity is actually a form of heightened awareness. Overthinking is less about paralysis and more about preparation, a hidden advantage that can transform vulnerability into power. So why does society treat overthinking like a problem to fix rather than a gift to nurture? Because our culture idolizes speed, confidence, and decisiveness. The world celebrates quick choices and bold actions, often dismissing caution and reflection as hesitation or weakness. Being decisive is praised, being thorough is misunderstood. Most of society measures normal by what the majority does, the fastest, loudest, most assured path, without recognizing the quiet complexity underneath. Overthinkers don't fit neatly into that mold. Their depth can be misread as insecurity or anxiety, their thoroughness mistaken for indecision. This majority bias blinds us to the richness of diverse thinking styles. Many revolutionary ideas were born from the minds of those who dared to question deeply, who saw possibilities others missed. The trailblazers, the visionaries, they often didn't move fast. They moved thoughtfully, sometimes painfully so. History has repeatedly shown that the outliers, the thinkers who didn't conform, are the ones who changed the world. They were once seen as broken or too much, but in reality, they were simply ahead of their time, seeing truths the rest of us couldn't yet grasp. Overthinking has been misunderstood, but it's time to change that narrative. It's not a flaw to hide, but a way of being to honor. Because when the world slows down enough to listen, the insights of the overthinker are not just valuable, they're indispensable. You don't need to stop overthinking to live fully. You need to learn how to harness it. Imagine your mind not as a trap, but as a workshop, bustling with ideas, exploring every angle, building bridges between thoughts no one else sees. Your endless questions, your second-guessing, your spiraling reflections, they are the raw materials of insight. Overthinking isn't a flaw to fix, it's a feature to refine. It's a lens that reveals the complexity beneath life's surface, a compass guiding you through uncertainty with more depth and clarity than many ever experience. Yes, it can feel exhausting. Yes, it can seem like a storm inside your head. But inside that storm is incredible power, a mind that cares deeply, thinks profoundly, and imagines endlessly. So instead of fearing your thoughts, honor them. Learn to pause, breathe, and channel your mental energy where it serves you best. Embrace your gift of depth as a secret strength that fuels creativity, empathy, and wisdom. Maybe, just maybe, your mind's relentless questioning isn't something to escape from, but something to celebrate. Because while others rush through life, you're the one who truly sees it, all its colors, shadows, and possibilities. You don't have to silence the noise. You just need to listen to what it's telling you. And in that listening, you might discover that overthinking isn't holding you back. It's the very thing that makes you uniquely equipped to move forward with insight, courage, and vision. Poor sense of direction. Have you ever believed that getting lost means you're somehow broken? That if you can't effortlessly navigate from point A to point B, you're missing a crucial life skill everyone else has mastered? What if that's not just wrong, but the exact opposite of the truth? Think about it. We live in a world obsessed with precision, with clear maps and instant GPS directions. The assumption is that if you struggle to find your way, you're less capable, less in control, less normal. But what if struggling to find your way means your brain sees the world differently, more richly, more deeply than most? What if your poor sense of direction isn't a defect but a hidden advantage, a secret superpower waiting to be discovered? This isn't just a comforting thought. It's backed by science, history, and the experiences of people who turned their so-called weakness into their greatest strength. Stick with me, because the map you've been following might be misleading you. Imagine this. You're standing at a busy intersection, the streets twisting like a labyrinth around you. Your phone's GPS is buzzing with turn-by-turn instructions, but somehow you still feel completely lost, like the city itself is speaking a language you don't understand. You try to keep calm, but your heart races. Did you miss a turn? Are you heading the wrong way? You glance around nervously, hoping no one notices your hesitation. The weight of every wrong step presses on your confidence, and suddenly, you feel invisible, like you're the only one trapped in this maze. Maybe it's worse when you're late, when your friend's text asks, "Where are you?" And all you can do is type, "I'm lost," again. Or think about the little moments. The wrong exit off the highway, the endless loop of streets that all look the same, the overwhelming flood of signs that your brain can't seem to piece together. It's exhausting. You begin to question your own instincts. Maybe you are bad with directions. Maybe you're just broken. But here's what nobody tells you. That feeling of isolation, that embarrassment, the second-guessing, it's not just in your head. It's real, and it's shared by millions. You're not alone in feeling like the world's maps are written in a code that only others can crack. And it's okay to feel frustrated, even scared. Because what lies beneath that struggle is a hidden way of experiencing the world. One that's unique, misunderstood, and yes, incredibly powerful. What if I told you that having a poor sense of direction is not a flaw, but a different way of experiencing space and place? One that opens doors most people never even knew existed. Neuroscientists have discovered that people who struggle with navigation often use alternative brain pathways to understand their environment. While many rely on visual landmarks and a straight-line mental map, those lost souls tap into a more abstract, flexible sense of space. They think less in rigid directions and more in stories, emotions, or patterns. Take, for example, renowned explorers and artists throughout history who reportedly had shaky navigation skills but unparalleled creativity. Their brains weren't wired to remember exact routes. They remembered feelings, colors, sounds, the essence of a place rather than its exact coordinates. This ability to perceive the world through a rich tapestry of sensory details gives them an edge in creativity, problem-solving, and innovation. Scientists also point out something fascinating. Poor navigators tend to develop exceptional compensatory skills. They become better at reading social cues, picking up subtle environmental signals, or sensing changes in their surroundings that most would miss. It's as if their brains rewire to protect and enhance other senses when one navigation system falters. In fact, some studies show that this unique spatial awareness might allow for creative leaps in thinking and perspective taking, abilities critical in art, science, and leadership. Instead of seeing the world as a flat map to follow, they see it as a multidimensional puzzle to interpret. It's a superpower hidden in plain sight. So next time you feel lost, remember, you're not just wandering aimlessly. You're exploring the world in a way that few ever dare to. That confusion? It's your brain's way of charting new territory. If this hidden advantage sounds surprising, that's because society has long framed poor sense of direction as a deficiency. Why? Because society loves simple rules and clear answers. It measures normal by the majority who navigate with ease, follow clear signs, and never lose their way. But defining normal by numbers is a dangerous trap. For centuries, history has shown us that many revolutionary thinkers, inventors, and artists were once labeled as broken or imperfect simply because they didn't fit the majority mold. Their unique brains worked differently, often misunderstood, often judged harshly. Our cultural obsession with efficiency and control overlooks the beauty of difference. Poor sense of direction has been dismissed as laziness, forgetfulness, or incompetence, ignoring that it might be a natural variant of human cognition, one that requires a different approach, not correction. In truth, the world would be poorer if every mind thought the same way or used the same tools. The innovators who changed history, the people who saw the world differently, often struggled with what society called weaknesses. And it was precisely those differences that powered their breakthroughs. So, when you feel lost, remember, the problem isn't you. It's the outdated belief that everyone must conform to one way of thinking, seeing, and moving through the world. The outliers, the ones who don't fit the map, are the ones who challenge it, redraw it, and ultimately change it. You don't need to be a master navigator to find your way through life. Sometimes, losing your path is exactly what leads you to discover new worlds, inside and out. Imagine your poor sense of direction not as a curse, but as a secret key to unlocking creativity, adaptability, and deeper awareness. Your mind isn't broken, it's wired differently, gifted with the ability to explore space in ways others can't. You perceive the world not as a static map, but as a living, breathing story, one full of hidden patterns, emotions, and possibilities. Every time you take a wrong turn, hesitate at a fork in the road, or second-guess your steps, you're engaging with the world on a richer, more nuanced level. You're not just finding your way, you're rewriting the rules of navigation. So, instead of fighting your poor sense of direction, embrace it. Use it as a reminder that clarity isn't about always knowing exactly where to go, but about trusting yourself enough to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear. Maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to follow the crowd's map. Maybe your unique way of moving through the world is exactly what will lead you to places others will never see. In a world obsessed with certainty and straight lines, being lost might be your greatest strength. It's a powerful invitation to explore, to adapt, and to create a new kind of direction, one that comes not from roads or signs, but from within. So next time you feel lost, pause and reflect. This isn't a flaw. It's your superpower. And the journey ahead? It's yours to define. Lactose intolerance. You've been taught to think that being able to chug a glass of milk is a sign of strength. That if your stomach flips at the thought of ice cream, there's something wrong with you. But what if it's the other way around? For most of human history, being lactose intolerant was the norm. Across the ancient world, once a child was weaned off their mother's milk, their body naturally slowed, and often stopped, its ability to digest lactose, the sugar found in milk. It wasn't seen as strange. It wasn't a problem. It was just the way life worked. Milk was for babies. Adults moved on. The real mutation, the strange twist in our evolutionary story, came much later, and only to a few, mostly among populations in Europe where dairy farming became central to survival. There, a genetic glitch allowed some people to keep digesting lactose into adulthood. It wasn't the rule. It was an odd exception. And somehow, over centuries, that exception got rebranded as normal. Today, about 65% of the world's population is lactose intolerant to some degree. In some regions of Asia and Africa, it's closer to 90%. So if you struggle with dairy, know this. Your body isn't broken. Your body is remembering. It's carrying the blueprint of ancestors who knew exactly when it was time to leave milk behind and move into the wider, richer world of natural foods. The question isn't, why can't you digest milk? The real question is, why would you need to? But even with this ancient wisdom coded into your cells, living with lactose intolerance today can feel like navigating a minefield. Because everywhere you turn, every cafe, every celebration, every restaurant menu, the modern world worships dairy like a golden idol. You walk into a coffee shop, glancing nervously at the menu. Milk, milk, milk. You clear your throat, feeling that tiny flicker of embarrassment as you ask, do you have any oat milk or almond milk? The barista smiles, or worse, sighs, and suddenly, your simple morning coffee feels like a negotiation. Birthday parties bring out the unspoken loneliness. The cake comes out, thick with creamy frosting. The ice cream gets scooped onto plates. Friends laugh and dig in while you hover at the edge, making excuses. I'm good, thanks. I'm full. Not because you don't want to join, but because you know that if you do, you'll pay the price later, quietly, when no one's watching. Pizza nights, cheese platters, creamy pastas. Even moments meant for joy come with a little edge of calculation. How much is too much? Is it worth it this time? And worse, the invisible judgment. The way people joke about lactose wimps, or roll their eyes when you ask for a modification. The way you start to question yourself. Am I being difficult? Am I too sensitive? But here's the truth, one you rarely hear. You're not fragile. You're not complicated. You're not a burden. You're simply someone whose body is tuned to a deeper, older rhythm. A rhythm that most of the modern world has forgotten. And soon, you'll see why that's not something to apologize for. It's something to be proud of. Long before cities, supermarkets, and coffee shops, human life was raw and wild. We roamed forests, crossed deserts, fished along riverbanks. And in all those early generations, one rule of life was simple. Milk was for infants, not adults. Across every ancient culture, it was understood without needing to be spoken. Once you could walk, hunt, gather, and chew solid food, your body didn't need milk anymore. And so, deep inside your cells, your biology shifted. The enzyme responsible for breaking down lactose, lactase, began to fade after childhood, like a door gently closing once its purpose was served. It was nature's design, a wise efficiency. No wasted energy maintaining something you no longer needed. But somewhere, thousands of years later, a strange chapter began. In certain pockets of the world, mainly in Northern Europe, humans began to domesticate cows, goats, and sheep. When harsh winters made crops scarce, milk became a vital lifeline, a survival tool. And over generations, those who could digest milk longer had a small edge, more calories, more chances to survive the lean seasons. Their genes shifted. Their bodies held on to lactase into adulthood. And the rare became common, but only in some parts of the world. Meanwhile, across most of Africa, Asia, South America, and indigenous cultures elsewhere, the natural blueprint remained unchanged. Lactose intolerance wasn't a flaw. It was simply being human. Even today, the majority of the world follows this ancient rhythm. So if your stomach churns after a milkshake, it's not because you're weak. It's because your body carries the memory of a world where survival meant knowing when to move forward, not clinging to what you've outgrown. You are, in a very real sense, closer to the original human design than many realize. And that ancient wisdom? It's still working for you, in ways modern science is only just beginning to understand. In a world engineered for convenience, it's easy to forget. Not all shortcuts are good for you. Today, dairy is everywhere, not because it's essential, but because it's profitable. Creamier coffee, cheesier pizzas, heavier sauces, they're designed to tempt, to overindulge, to sell. But those with lactose intolerance are often nudged, sometimes forced, to take a different path. And ironically, that path often leads to better health. When you say no to heavy dairy, you open the door to a richer, cleaner way of eating. More plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains. More variety, almond, oat, coconut, cashew, soy. Better gut health, as you dodge the inflammatory effects many experience with excessive dairy. Lower risk. Studies show reduced dairy consumption can mean lower rates of certain diseases, including acne, some hormonal imbalances, and even some cancers. In other words, your body's refusal to digest lactose easily isn't just an inconvenience. It's a guardrail, a quiet protector steering you away from foods that in excess can weigh others down. You were never built to mindlessly consume what's easy. You were built to adapt, to discern, to thrive through intelligent nourishment. Your body still listens to a wisdom older than supermarkets and advertisements. A wisdom that doesn't fall for every creamy commercial or cheesy temptation. In a world of quick fixes, your biology holds the long view. It chooses resilience over indulgence, clarity over comfort, longevity over shortcuts. And that's a strength worth celebrating. Left-handedness. Most people have been told again and again that left-handedness is rare, a quirky, almost defective trait that only a small fraction of the population carries. You might have heard that only about 10% of people are left-handed, and maybe that makes you feel different or even less normal. But what if I told you that left-handers are not just rare oddities? They are a powerful, hidden majority of thinkers and creators whose influence is woven deep into human history. Think about this. The world around you, from art to music, science to politics, has been shaped by left-handers far more than most realize. Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Curie, Jimi Hendrix, Barack Obama. All left-handed visionaries who didn't just adapt to the world, they transformed it. Lefties are disproportionately represented among innovators, athletes, and pioneers. They are the secret force behind many breakthroughs. The truth is, left-handedness is not a quirk. It's a remarkable variation of human wiring, a minority with a major impact. The world may look like it's built for right-handers, but it's been secretly shaped by left-handed minds all along. What if the world you think you know, the normal world, is actually just one side of a much richer story? What if left-handedness is not a flaw but a rare gift, a hidden majority of creativity, adaptability, and power you never realized existed? But living as a left-hander in a right-handed world hasn't been easy. It's not just about the awkward scissors, desks, or can openers that seem designed to trip you up. It's the quiet daily battles that no one talks about, the subtle ways you've had to bend, hide, and adjust a fundamental part of who you are. Remember the endless frustration in school, trying to write without smudging your ink? Or the uncomfortable feeling when your handwriting is called wrong, simply because it's mirrored from the majority? The moments you learn to avoid your left hand altogether, just to make life simpler for everyone else? It's the unspoken loneliness of feeling othered. Not through outright cruelty, but through 1,000 small signals that say, you don't quite fit here. The sideways looks, the awkward corrections, the gentle but persistent pressure to conform. You weren't clumsy. You weren't broken. You weren't wrong. You were simply navigating a world that wasn't built for you. A world where your natural way of being was constantly challenged. The emotional toll runs deep. That sense of invisibility, of having to mask a part of yourself just to get by. But beneath that struggle lies a strength many overlook. Because in learning to navigate this world, you've developed resilience, creativity, and adaptability. You've been shaping your own path quietly. And the story of left-handedness is far richer than most ever realize. What if all those daily struggles weren't just obstacles, but the foundation of a hidden advantage? Behind the stories of frustration lies an incredible secret. Left-handedness isn't just a difference, it's a unique edge wired deep into the brain. Scientists have uncovered fascinating truths about how left-handers' brains work. Unlike the majority who rely heavily on one side, left-handed people often have a more balanced use of both hemispheres, with stronger connections linking the left and right sides. This neurological setup fuels heightened creativity, faster problem-solving, and an ability to see the world from multiple perspectives at once. That's why lefties shine in fields where innovation matters most: art, music, sports, and complex thinking. Think of Paul McCartney crafting melodies, Rafael Nadal dominating the tennis court with an unpredictable spin, or Marie Curie unraveling the mysteries of radioactivity. Their left-handedness wasn't a handicap, it was a hidden superpower. Lefties often excel at spatial reasoning, multitasking, and thinking outside the box. Skills that give them an edge in both everyday life and extraordinary moments. Far from being less, left-handedness can mean thinking differently, seeing differently, and creating differently. The real secret? That edge comes not despite the world being built for right-handers, but because lefties have learned to adapt, innovate, and thrive in a world that often isn't designed for them. It's not just survival, it's a blueprint for brilliance. For centuries, society has told us what normal looks like, and almost always, that normal meant right-handed. From ancient superstitions to modern schooling, left-handers were pushed to conform, corrected, or even punished. The word sinister itself comes from the Latin for left, revealing the deep-rooted bias in language and culture. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Normal is just a myth. It's a number on a spectrum, a convenience for the majority, not a measure of worth or ability. Defining right-handedness as the default ignored the richness of human diversity, and left-handedness, in particular, has been misunderstood and underestimated. When society tries to erase left-handedness, it's not correcting a problem. It's silencing a natural variation that's been part of humanity for millennia. Left-handedness is not a defect to fix, but a natural, powerful thread in the human tapestry. History shows us time and again, those labeled different are often the ones who reshape the world. The outliers, the innovators, the rebels, they don't fit the mold because they were never meant to. Left-handedness isn't a problem. It's proof that human potential can't be boxed into normal. The real question isn't why lefties are different. It's why the world still clings to the idea that being different means being wrong. It's time to stop apologizing for being left-handed, because you're not just a minority. You're part of an extraordinary lineage, a legacy of resilience, creativity, and quiet rebellion that stretches back through history. Imagine the trailblazers who shaped our world. From Leonardo da Vinci sketching masterpieces with his left hand, to Joan of Arc leading armies against impossible odds, to modern visionaries like Steve Jobs transforming technology. Each of them carried the same signature trait, the courage to navigate a world that often pushed them aside. Your left-handedness isn't a quirk or a flaw. It's a badge of honor, a symbol of adaptability in a world built for someone else's comfort. You've learned to dance to a different rhythm, to solve problems in ways others never imagined, and to turn what was once seen as a weakness into your greatest strength. Think about all the moments you faced frustration, smudged ink, awkward tools, sideways desks, and turned them into fuel for innovation. You've honed skills that only emerge when the easy path isn't an option. That's not just survival. That's mastery. Now it's time to reclaim your story, to celebrate the power of your left hand, not as an outlier, but as an originator. You're a living reminder that diversity is what drives progress, that the world becomes richer and sharper when it embraces every kind of mind and hand. So stand tall. Embrace your unique perspective. You don't owe the world an apology for being different. The world owes you a thank you for making it more vibrant, more creative, and infinitely more interesting. The legacy of left-handedness is yours to claim. Carry it proudly, because in every stroke, every idea, every challenge you've overcome, you're shaping a future that no one else could. Short height. From the moment we can walk, we start measuring. Against walls, against siblings, against classmates, against strangers. And somewhere along the way, without ever saying it out loud, we absorb an invisible message. Taller is better. Taller means stronger, more powerful, more desirable. No one hands us a rulebook spelling it out. It's woven into birthday charts in classrooms, into basketball tryouts, into romantic comedies where the tall, dark, and handsome man sweeps the world off its feet. It's tucked into simple phrases. Look up to them, we say admiringly. They're a big deal, we declare. Each casual compliment, each unnoticed ad, each seemingly harmless joke, it plants a seed. And slowly, silently, we learn to equate inches with importance. It's not hatred. It's not cruelty. It's just the lazy shorthand society created. Bigger equals better. Smaller equals less. But have you ever paused to ask, is that true? Or just something everyone agreed to believe because it was easier than thinking harder? Because reality has always been more complicated. History is filled with people who never towered over anyone, yet changed the very ground the world stood on. Maybe size was never the true measure of power. Maybe it was just the easiest one to see. It doesn't scream at you. It whispers thousands of times in thousands of ways. You notice it when you have to climb the kitchen counter just to grab a mug. When you walk into a store and realize half the clothes seem made for someone stretched by an invisible machine. When you stand in a crowd and realize conversations are happening, just out of earshot. When someone may be well-meaning, maybe not, ruffles your hair like you're a child because they can. It's not about vanity. It's about always adapting to a world built with someone else in mind. A world calibrated for a body you don't live in. You laugh it off because that's what you're supposed to do. You pretend it's no big deal when you need a step stool at the gym. You smile when a stranger jokes about coming up short. And yet, piece by piece, these moments pile up. They don't just weigh on your back. They press on your sense of enoughness, whispering that you have to be louder. Tougher, smarter, more just to be seen as equal. You learned early. to stand taller in ways that had nothing to do with inches, to work harder for credibility that others received for free, to cultivate a strength the world rarely recognized, but that you carried anyway in silence. You weren't sensitive. You weren't weak. You were surviving in a world that demanded you be something you physically weren't, and you made it work anyway. That's not smallness. That's resilience most people will never understand. Here's something most people never think about. Shorter doesn't mean weaker. In many ways, it means more efficient. In physics, power isn't just about force, it's about leverage. Speed control. A compact frame often has natural advantages. Faster reflexes, better balance, greater strength-to-weight ratio, less wear and tear on joints over time. When athletes train, they know it. Shorter limbs mean quicker, more explosive movements. Lower centers of gravity mean tighter control, sharper agility. In sports like gymnastics, martial arts, horse racing, even sprinting, being smaller isn't a disadvantage. It's an edge. But it goes beyond the body. Mind and spirit adapt too. When you grow up needing to be sharper, quicker, and more assertive just to claim your space, you develop an inner agility that many taller people never have to build. You notice the gaps faster. You think 2 steps ahead. You learn to lead with your energy, your ideas, your presence, not just your physical size. You didn't grow less. You grew differently, deeper, tighter, stronger. You became a living example that impact has never been about height. It's about how hard you hit the ground when you move. For most of history, taller has been seen as better. But not because it was better. It was because it was easier. Tallness is visible. It's instant. It doesn't require people to look closer, to listen harder, to think deeper. It fits the lazy human instinct to judge quickly by appearance. In ancient times, height was linked with leadership simply because in a crowd, taller figures could be seen and heard more easily. It wasn't a measure of intelligence, kindness, bravery, or innovation. It was a trick of optics. The world mistook seen first for best suited. Over centuries, the myth snowballed. Tall soldiers were chosen for royal guards. Tall candidates were preferred for leadership roles. Tall heroes were cast in stories and movies. Meanwhile, the quiet, strategic, agile minds, those closer to the ground, blending into the crowd, were often overlooked. But history, when you look closer, tells a different story. Alexander the Great, one of history's greatest conquerors, was likely shorter than many of his soldiers. Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who shook Europe, stood around 5 feet 6 inches, average for his time. Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space, was just 5 feet 2 inches. Chosen because a smaller body could better endure the crushing physical demands of launch. The people who truly change the world are rarely those who just look the part. They are the ones who see differently, move differently, think differently. Because they had to. Tallness might make you visible, but it never made you unstoppable. That power, the kind that bends reality, has always lived in the ones who had to fight a little harder to be seen. And once they are seen, the world never forgets them. There's a quiet kind of revolution that history often forgets to mention. The rise of those who weren't born towering above the crowd, but who rose anyway. Being short forces you to master what others take for granted. You learn early that you can't just rely on presence to be noticed. You can't simply step into a room and expect the world to make space for you. You have to earn it. With your words, your energy, your ideas, your fire. It teaches you something most people never truly learn. Real power isn't given. It's created. You learn to move faster. Think sharper. Push harder. You master resilience, not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. And over time, that necessity forges something unbreakable inside you. History quietly reveals this truth if you know where to look. Leaders, innovators, legends. Many didn't tower over their peers physically, but they dominated in every way that mattered. Mother Teresa, just 5 feet tall, who commanded nations to pay attention to the forgotten. Winston Churchill, around 5 feet 6 inches, who stared down an empire's darkest hour with unshakable defiance. Bruce Lee, 5 feet 8 inches, who shattered Hollywood's barriers and redefined strength forever. Not because of inches, because of impact. Nearsightedness. They say nearsightedness is a flaw, a biological mistake, an inconvenience to be corrected with glasses, surgeries, or lenses that promise to fix you. But what if the real mistake was society's idea of what perfect vision even means? What if the very thing the world tells you is your weakness being unable to see far, is actually a hidden strength the world forgot how to value. Maybe you're not broken at all. Maybe you're designed for something sharper, something closer, something deeper. Maybe you were never meant to drift far away, but to dive into the things right in front of you and see them more clearly than anyone else ever could. Imagine waking up in the morning, and before your feet even touch the floor, you're already reaching out blindly, patting your nightstand, hoping to find your glasses without knocking them to the ground. Imagine standing in a crowded airport, staring at the departure board that everyone else seems to read easily, while to you, it's a swirling mess of colors and lights, distant and indifferent. Imagine missing a friend's wave across the street, not because you don't care, but because their outline fades into the backdrop of a world that's just a little too far away. This is life with nearsightedness. A constant background hum of second-guessing, 1,000 tiny moments of hesitation, a quiet feeling of being slightly out of step with a world designed for people who can glance across a field and read a sign with ease. It's not just about vision, it's about control, about the subtle, constant reminders that you need help just to interact with the everyday world, about feeling exposed when you forget your glasses, vulnerable when your contacts dry out, about being the one squinting when everyone else is breezing by. And it builds up over time, a slow, almost invisible erosion of confidence. No one talks about it. No one says, "Hey, I get it. I know how it feels to see the world just a little differently, to live in a reality that demands you make adjustments just to keep up." Instead, it's treated like an easy fix. Just wear glasses. Just get LASIK. As if the deeper emotional reality of nearsightedness, the feeling of living one step behind, one glance away from clarity, could be solved with a prescription. But underneath it all, there's a different story waiting to be told. A truth hidden behind the blur. Because when you stop trying to fix nearsightedness, you start seeing what it really is, a different kind of focus, a different kind of clarity, a gift no one ever bothered to unwrap. Here's the thing nobody tells you about nearsightedness. While the world claps for those who can spot a bird a mile away, it forgets about the incredible power of looking closely. Nearsighted people, people like you, are naturally built for depth, not distance, for precision, not distraction, for immersion, not passivity. When your vision draws the world closer, you don't skim the surface, you dive beneath it. Artists, surgeons, watchmakers, scientists peering into microscopes. So many of the world's greatest crafts require the exact kind of attention that nearsightedness demands. Careful, patient, intimate focus. You're not cursed to live life blurred. You're gifted to live life up close. Studies even back it up. Nearsighted individuals often outperform others in fields requiring detailed visual work. When others get overwhelmed by vast scenes and distant chatter, nearsighted people naturally zero in, cutting through the noise, concentrating where it matters most. While the world looks outwards, to what's far, to what's flashy, you've been trained by nature itself to look inward, to find meaning where others see only clutter. It's not just a different way of seeing, it's a different way of being. You weren't meant to see everything. You were meant to see deeply. And in a society drowning in distractions, that's not a flaw. It's a superpower. So how did it all get twisted? How did nearsightedness become a punchline, a problem to correct? It's simple. The world measures what's easy to measure. And distance, how far you can see, is easy to test, to rank, to label. The eye chart on the wall, the numbers in a prescription, the letters you can or can't make out, all built around the same idea. That seeing farther is better, that farther equals smarter, healthier, superior. But what they never stopped to ask was, better for what? Sure, soldiers on ancient battlefields needed to spot enemies far away. Hunters needed to track prey over hills. Explorers needed to scan horizons. But we're not living on open plains anymore. We live in a world of details. A world of code, of design, of art, of science. A world where depth of focus matters just as much, if not more, than breadth of sight. Yet society's idea of perfect vision got stuck in the past, stuck chasing a narrow, outdated ideal, blind to the truth that different doesn't mean defective. They misunderstood the gift right in front of them. The real tragedy isn't that you see differently. It's that the world stopped celebrating different kinds of vision. It's that the world forgot. Sometimes the ones who seem to see less are actually the ones seeing what others completely miss. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a crowded world, a world obsessed with looking outward, chasing distant goals, scanning horizons they can barely touch. Meanwhile, you who were once told you were broken, have something they don't. You have clarity where it matters most. Not the shallow kind that sees the outline of a mountain, but the rare kind that notices the delicate flower growing at its base. Not the hurried glance that schemes the sky, but the lingering gaze that sees the patterns hidden in the bark of an old tree. Nearsightedness was never about what you couldn't see. It was about what you were always meant to see better. Close. Personal. Deep. You were built for focus in a world addicted to distraction. You were built for intimacy in a culture that values spectacle. You were built to notice what others dismiss, to cherish what others overlook. And once you stop chasing society's rigid idea of perfect sight, once you reclaim your own way of seeing, something beautiful happens. You stop apologizing for the way your eyes work. You start trusting them. You start realizing that in a world where everyone is trying to be everywhere at once, you have the power to be fully here, fully present, fully attentive, fully alive. That's the real clarity. Not the one that lets you read the furthest sign on the freeway, but the one that lets you read the quiet, beautiful details life is whispering right in front of you. You were never meant to follow the crowd's line of sight. You were meant to focus where the real treasures are found. And now that you know it, you can stop chasing distance and start embracing depth. Slow metabolism. Long before there were smartphones, treadmills, and 10-minute meal preps, there was hunger. Real hunger. Relentless, season-long, life-threatening scarcity. And back then, when food disappeared with the winter winds, it wasn't the fastest bodies that survived. It was the ones that knew how to make little last long. The ancestors with slower metabolisms, the ones who could store energy carefully, stretch every calorie, slow their burn. They were the ones who made it to spring. They were the ones who passed their DNA forward. They were the architects of endurance. Inside you, that wisdom is still alive. Your body doesn't just process food. It listens to it. It doesn't just burn energy. It negotiates with it, carefully, thoughtfully, like a master strategist rationing supplies for a long journey. Every decision your metabolism makes is a quiet act of survival logic. Slow down the burn. Stretch the resources. Protect the reserves. Endure the hard seasons. It's not laziness. It's not stubbornness. It's ancient, inherited brilliance. In a world that forgot what survival truly costs, your body still remembers. It speaks a language older than urgency, a language of patience, conservation, and long-term thinking. You are not broken. You are a living archive of resilience. And while the world rushes ahead in blind speed, you are wired to endure. Not just today, but for the storms yet to come. We're taught to celebrate the quick, the sprinter, the instant success, the overnight transformation. The world is addicted to fast, to things that explode, burn bright, and fade even faster. But beneath that surface obsession, there's a different kind of power, a strength that doesn't shout. It waits. It endures. Your slower metabolism isn't just about patience, it's about protection. It shields you from extremes most bodies can't handle. In times of scarcity, while others crash into fatigue or illness from burning energy too fast, your body adapts. It shifts gears. It defends its reserves. It whispers, hold on. Stay steady. We'll get through this. And beyond survival, there's another secret. Studies show that slower metabolisms are often associated with greater cellular longevity. The less frantic the burn, the less oxidative damage cells take over time. It's like driving a car. If you slam the gas pedal constantly, you wear the engine out faster. But if you drive with care, the car lasts far longer than anyone expected. Your body is playing the long game. While the world cheers the fast flame, your metabolism is building something more precious. Stamina, sustainability, longevity. You are not a sprint. You are a marathon, still standing long after the others are gasping for air. And that, though unseen, is a strength few ever truly master. It's not your fault they got it wrong. Society isn't built to celebrate the slow, the steady, or the enduring. It rewards speed, noise, immediate results. It labels anything slower as lazy, defective, or inadequate. Not because it's true, but because it's inconvenient to the story they want to tell. The world runs on timelines that demand faster sales, faster bodies, faster profits. It measures success by how quickly you can transform, how little you can eat, how fast you can run. So when they saw your slower metabolism, your body's cautious, strategic conservation, they didn't see brilliance. They saw a problem. But history has a funny way of revealing truths over time. The great civilizations weren't built in a day. The strongest trees grow the slowest, sinking roots deep into the earth before they ever reach the sky. The fires that warm entire villages aren't the ones that burn wildly. They are the ones that burn slowly, steadily, through the coldest nights. You are part of that story. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are a slow-burning fire, built for the long winters, the tough climbs, the real endurance tests of life. And one day, when the frantic noise burns itself out, it will be people like you, steady, resourceful, resilient, who are still standing, still shining, still here. At some point, you realize, the race you were running was never yours to begin with. You were built differently. Not to chase the fastest wins or collapse under impossible timelines, but to live deeply, lastingly, with strength that doesn't just flash, but stays. Living aligned with your design starts with reclaiming your pace. It means listening to the wisdom in your own body, not the noise of a world sprinting toward burnout. It means choosing nourishment over punishment, choosing consistency over intensity, choosing endurance over ego. When you stop fighting your natural rhythm, something amazing happens. You start eating in a way that honors how your energy flows, not starving or binging, but fueling sustainably. You exercise not to shrink yourself fast, but to build a vessel that gets stronger month after month, year after year. You stop measuring your worth by speed and start measuring it by how rooted, calm, and alive you feel. Because here's a deeper truth. A slower metabolism isn't a flaw to fix. It's a language to learn. And when you learn it, when you live with your body instead of against it, you unlock a life that's not just more peaceful, but more powerful. In a world obsessed with intensity, you embody intention. In a culture frantic for instant wins, you are built for lasting victories. In a society that burns out chasing more, you thrive by sustaining what truly matters. Living aligned with your design is not about giving up ambition. It's about playing a bigger, wiser, longer game. The one your body has known how to play all along. The world may keep rushing. Let them. You have something better. A fire that never burns out. A strength that never abandons you. A life that doesn't just flash, but flourishes. And this time, you're moving in your own time, in your own way, exactly as you were meant to. Flat feet. You've been told the story your whole life, that the perfect foot has a graceful arch, a curve like a drawn bow ready to spring into action. Shoe companies celebrate it. Doctors measure it. Athletes flaunt it. Flat feet, on the other hand, labeled defective, weak, a mistake that needs correction. But what if that story was never true? What if, beneath all the polished ads and outdated medical charts, the truth was much simpler and far more empowering? Flat feet aren't a flaw. They are a different kind of foundation, broader, steadier, more resilient. Imagine building a house. Would you put it on a narrow, dainty pedestal? Or would you anchor it into the earth with a wide, firm base? For most of human history, before sneakers and orthotics, it was the flat-footed who trekked deserts, climbed mountains, carried civilizations on their backs. In fact, some of the strongest warriors, runners, and survivors of ancient cultures thrived because of, not despite, their flatter feet. The arch superiority myth? That's a story told by modern society, obsessed with symmetry and cosmetics, not survival and truth. And today, it's time to pull that story apart and walk into a truth far older and sturdier than you've ever been told. It starts early, maybe as a kid, when you first noticed your feet looked different. No graceful arches, no elegant curves, just flatness. And somehow, that simple shape, something you never chose, became a quiet source of shame. You didn't shout about it, but you felt it every time someone joked about duck feet. Every time shoes dug into your ankles because they were designed for a shape you didn't have. Every time a coach or gym teacher implied you were less athletic before you even moved. You learned to pretend, to tie your laces tighter, to buy the insoles, to endure the slight burning ache in your legs after long days on your feet, telling yourself it was normal, that you just needed to be stronger, fitter, better. What no one talked about was the hidden exhaustion. The way your body worked harder than others just to do basic things like standing still or walking on concrete. The way you had to think about your steps when others walked mindlessly. The way you quietly wondered if something was wrong with you, not just your feet, but your being. Flat feet didn't just shape your posture. They shaped your self-image, bending you under an invisible weight far heavier than gravity. The constant feeling of being slightly off, slightly less, even if you never said it out loud. But what if you were never broken? What if you were built differently, for a strength no one ever taught you to see? While the world fixated on arches, chasing the illusion of lightness, elegance, and perfection, your body quietly built something else, a deeper connection to the earth itself. Flat feet aren't about weakness. They're about stability. Biomechanically, a flatter foot offers greater surface contact with the ground, allowing for better weight distribution, stronger shock absorption, and, in certain conditions, enhanced endurance. Ever wonder why indigenous peoples who walked barefoot across vast deserts, forests, and savannas for generations rarely complained about arch support? Because their feet evolved to be practical, adaptive, designed to meet the terrain with resilience, not to conform to some delicate modern ideal. In martial arts, in certain military training, even among barefoot ultrarunners, a strong, broad connection to the ground is an asset. It lowers your center of gravity. It improves balance. It helps you react quicker, pivot harder, stand longer. Where others teeter, you anchor. Where others fatigue, you endure. Flat feet don't float on illusion. They grip reality. They are a reminder that in a world obsessed with appearances, there is immeasurable power in being rooted, in feeling every inch of the world beneath you and moving with it, not against it. You weren't made to dance on fragile glass. You were made to stride across continents. Imagine this. Every step you take is a conversation with the earth, a silent dialogue of weight, balance, force, and return. Most people tread lightly over that connection, oblivious. But you were built to feel it fully. Flat feet aren't an absence. They are a different language of movement, deeper, stronger, older. A grounded rhythm that modern life has tried to drown out, but never truly erased. When you embrace the way you were designed, you step into an ancient strength. Stability under pressure. Endurance through long distances. Balance when the world tilts. You are not defective. You are adapted. You are not missing something. You are rooted in something even bigger. An inheritance of survival, resilience, and real-world strength that no soft arch could ever replace. The power of solid ground is yours whenever you choose it. It was never about fixing you. It was about reminding you. You were never meant to float above the earth, detached and fragile. You were meant to walk it, fully connected, unshakable, unstoppable. So stand how you were born to stand. Walk how you were born to walk. The world may have forgotten what that power looks like, but you can remind them. It begins with a single step, this time without apology. Fear of water, aquaphobia. Most people think fear is a flaw, a crack in the armor of a normal life, especially fear of something as ordinary as water. But what if fear, particularly your fear of water, isn't a defect at all? What if it's an ancient alarm, one that still rings quietly inside you while the rest of the world rushes past without a second thought? Thousands of years ago, water was never just something you splashed in for fun. It was survival. It was danger. It was power. Rivers swallowed entire villages. Oceans devoured ships. Lakes held unseen depths where even the strongest swimmers could vanish without a trace. Back then, the people who hesitated, who felt a chill creep up their spine near the rushing current, were the ones who lived to tell the story. Your fear isn't irrational. It's inherited. It's the echo of a time when respecting the water, not challenging it, meant survival. But somewhere along the way, society buried this wisdom under glossy beach photos and Hollywood montages. Somewhere along the way, hesitation became embarrassment, and ancient caution was mislabeled as weakness. Yet inside you, that alarm never shut off. It hums quietly, a forgotten song of instinct and ancient memory. And the truth is, in a world obsessed with ignoring fear, you are still listening. That's not brokenness. That's awareness, and it changes everything. Fear of water isn't usually dramatic. It doesn't come wearing flashing lights or sirens. Most of the time, it's quieter than that, and lonelier. It's the tightening in your throat when friends suggest a spontaneous swim. It's the invisible wall that rises between you and the sparkling blue while everyone else rushes in, laughing weightless. It's the heavy feeling in your gut when you have to make up an excuse, because I just don't want to never seems good enough. No one sees the quiet calculations. How deep is it really? What if I can't touch the bottom? What if I panic and no one notices? They only see hesitation. They only see difference. They don't hear the quickening heartbeats. They don't see the way your body stiffens at the sound of water crashing too loudly. They don't know how much courage it already takes just to stand at the edge. You're not fighting the water. You're fighting the invisible weight of being misunderstood. And sometimes, that's the heaviest battle of all, the one where you question yourself. Am I weak? Am I missing something? Why can't I just be normal? But here's what most people will never understand. It's easy to run with the crowd. It's harder, much harder, to stand quietly, to listen to the voice inside you that whispers not today. Even when the world tries to shout over it. Your fear isn't the enemy. It's the part of you that still remembers. Not all beautiful things are harmless. And in remembering that, you hold a wisdom most have long forgotten. Fear of water, or aquaphobia, might seem like a curse. But what if it's actually a gift? One you've been carrying all along, hidden beneath layers of shame and misunderstanding. Long before swimming pools and beaches became playgrounds, fear of water was a form of respect, an intuitive understanding of nature's power. This fear kept our ancestors alive. It made them cautious near dark waters where unseen currents lurked, where the bottom vanished into mystery. It sharpened their senses, tuned their awareness to details others might miss. In a world that worships recklessness and conquering fears, you quietly carry an ancient wisdom that says, pause, watch, listen. Modern science now reveals surprising truths. Those who fear water often possess heightened instincts, faster reflexes, a deeper attunement to danger signals, and an extraordinary ability to sense subtle shifts in their environment. Their brains are wired to detect risk before it becomes disaster. Your fear is not a broken system. It's a survival toolkit encoded by millennia of evolution. And here's the paradox. While others dive in headfirst, driven by thrill or peer pressure, you move deliberately, mindfully. You respect the boundary between safety and risk in ways that can save lives, yours and others. This isn't just about fear. It's about power, the kind that comes from listening to your inner voice, trusting your instincts, and honoring your limits. It's about a deep connection to the elements that most have lost in their rush to swim farther, faster, and louder. Your fear of water is a forgotten gift, one that asks you to reclaim a sacred balance between awe and caution. Our culture loves to tell stories of bravery, of facing fears head-on, no matter the cost. It cheers the person who jumps fearlessly into the ocean, who swims across lakes with confidence, who laughs at danger as if it's a joke. But what if this story is incomplete? What if this cultural narrative, this loud anthem of fearlessness, actually misreads the deeper truth? Fear of water has been labeled irrational or weak, but this is a cultural mistake rooted in misunderstanding. Society tends to value visible courage, boldness on the surface, while ignoring the quiet courage that happens inside. The courage to say no, to hold back, to prioritize safety over social acceptance. This upside-down thinking has cost many their peace, and even their lives. People pressured to get over their fear have sometimes pushed themselves into situations they weren't ready for, and tragedy followed. The world teaches us to see fear as something to conquer or discard, but the real wisdom lies in listening to fear as a guide. It's not a signal to run or freeze, but a message to pay attention, to understand your limits, and to respect the invisible boundaries that keep you grounded. This cultural blind spot also dismisses the diversity of human experience. Not everyone processes danger or risk in the same way. The loudest voices don't always speak the truth for everyone. Fear of water isn't a flaw or a failure. It's a different way of relating to the world, a way that has kept many alive for thousands of years. The culture got it backwards by celebrating reckless bravery while overlooking mindful caution. The real strength, it turns out, comes from embracing your fear as part of your story, not fighting it. In that reversal, there's liberation. Freedom from shame, freedom to honor your rhythm, freedom to redefine what courage means on your own terms. Fear of water is not just a surface reaction. It is a profound dialogue between your conscious mind and a deeper, ancient part of yourself. This fear whispers to you from a place rooted in survival, memory, and instinct. To truly move forward, you don't need to erase the fear. You need to return to the deep self that understands it. Imagine your inner world as a vast ocean itself, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. Your fear has been like a guardian at the shore, warning you of hidden reefs and unseen depths. It is not an enemy to defeat, but a guide to honor. Returning to your deep self means reconnecting with your body's intelligence, the silent language of heartbeat, breath, and muscle memory that knows far more than your thoughts do. It means slowing down enough to listen to what your body really wants to say, beyond the noise of judgment or impatience. In this process, many discover a surprising truth. Beneath the fear lies a wellspring of resilience. You begin to recognize that your boundaries are not walls but thresholds, gates to new experiences approached with respect and self-awareness. The journey back is also a reclaiming of trust. Trust in your sensations, trust in your timing, trust in your right to say no as much as yes. It is about embracing your unique rhythm, where progress isn't measured by leaps but by small, meaningful steps that honor your pace. This return is deeply healing. It unravels layers of shame and self-doubt woven by cultural misunderstandings and replaces them with acceptance and self-compassion. You start to see your fear not as a limitation, but as an invitation to live more mindfully, not just around water, but in all aspects of your life. The deep self teaches patience and presence. It reminds you that courage isn't loud or reckless. It is quiet and steady. It shows you how to navigate uncertainty with grace, and how to find peace even when the waves rise high. In this return, you are not alone. You join countless others who walk this path, people who have learned to honor their fears, and through that honoring, have found a deeper sense of freedom. Fear of water becomes not a chain, but a compass, guiding you back to yourself, to your body's wisdom, and to a truer, more compassionate way of being in the world. This is your deep self calling you home. Heavy sweating. Your body speaks, but it doesn't use words. It uses signs, pulses, patterns, and sometimes sweat. To most people, sweat is just a side effect of effort, a byproduct, something to wipe away. But for others, maybe you, it feels like a curse you didn't sign up for. It comes when it wants to, in job interviews, on first dates, while doing nothing at all. Palms slick when you're trying to shake hands. Damp patches blooming through shirts before a word leaves your mouth. Feet slipping inside your shoes like they're trying to escape. And you wonder, why now? Why me? But what if I told you, your sweat is not your body's betrayal. It's your body's cry for connection. See, sweating isn't random. It's the oldest safety system in your biology. Long before you knew how to name your stress, your body was already defending you, cooling you, calming you, whispering, "I've got this, just let me." In people with hyperhidrosis, heavy sweating, that system is just louder, more intense. It doesn't mean your body is broken. It means it cares too much. It's trying too hard to keep you safe. But no one told you that. Instead, they handed you shame, antiperspirants, blame. Just relax, they said. Stop being nervous, as if it were a choice. So you learned to silence your body's cry, not because it was wrong, but because the world never bothered to listen. It starts early, maybe middle school, maybe earlier. That moment you look down and see the sweat soaking through your shirt, the flush of panic, the quick jacket tie around the waist move, the dart to the bathroom, hoping no one saw. And so begins the quiet war, not against others, but against yourself. Hyperhidrosis doesn't wait for heat. It doesn't wait for exertion. It shows up on cold days, in silent rooms, while you're standing still, trying desperately not to call attention to yourself. You start to calculate everything. What color shirt won't show the sweat? How long can I wear this before it betrays me? Do I shake their hand or pretend I have sanitizer on? Every social interaction becomes a chess match, played with wet palms and a dry smile. But here's the part no one sees. It's not just about the moisture. It's about control, or the lack of it. You feel like a machine gone rogue, your body doing things you didn't agree to. And the shame isn't loud, it's subtle. It's in the small decisions, the quiet retreats, the clothes you never wear, the hugs you always dodge. There's no wound, no fever, no cast to explain it. Just that lingering fear that if they see this part of me, they'll think less of me. So you hide. And slowly, drip by drip, your confidence evaporates. Not because you are weak, but because you've spent years fighting something that was never your fault to begin with. Your body is not broken. It is ancient technology, elegant, adaptive, and wise beyond what most people will ever understand. The human body was engineered for survival in a world of predators, harsh climates, and scarcity. Sweating, it's not a glitch. It's a feature. One of the most advanced systems we have for regulating heat and emotion. When used properly, it's the reason we didn't overheat on the savannah while outrunning animals. It's what helped our brains stay cool, so we could think under pressure. It's what saved us. But modern life isn't built to appreciate that kind of genius. In a world obsessed with looking composed, clean, and camera-ready, sweating has become taboo. Hyperhidrosis, they call it. A disorder. A dysfunction. But let's take a moment to reconsider that. People with hyperhidrosis have a nervous system that's simply more responsive. Your sweat glands aren't defective, they're attentive. They hear the faintest signal of emotional heat, and they answer. Yes, they can overreact. Yes, they can make life messy and unpredictable. But in that hypersensitivity lies something powerful. A body deeply attuned to inner and outer change. You feel things faster. Your stress manifests sooner. You know before anyone else when the temperature in a room, emotionally or physically, is shifting. That's not a flaw. That's awareness. The tragedy is that no one ever told you. You grew up in a culture that taught you to mistrust your body, to fight it, to hide it. But maybe what you needed all along was to understand it. Because your body isn't rebelling, it's responding. Not broken, just unheard. From the moment we're born, the world starts shaping us. Not by what it says directly, but by what it celebrates. Dry hands are professional. Matte skin is beautiful. Cool, collected, and composed, that's the gold standard. So what happens when your body doesn't comply? You're told to medicate, to blot, to deodorize, to control, rarely to listen. This isn't just about sweat. It's about the deeper message society sends, that your natural state is something to be fixed, that being visibly human, vulnerable, moist, emotional, is a sign of weakness. But let's get honest, this isn't your failure. This is a culture that forgot how to honor the body. A society that confuses dryness with discipline and stillness with strength. No wonder hyperhidrosis feels like shame. You weren't born ashamed of your body. That was taught. You weren't born with fear of sweat. That was modeled. You were born with a body doing exactly what it's designed to do. Respond to the world in real time, with intensity, with care. The real dysfunction isn't in your glands. It's in a world that demands perfection over presence, control over connection, masks over meaning. But here's the secret. You don't have to keep living by that script. You don't have to keep hiding from your own humanity. Because what they labeled a problem might just be your body's most beautiful truth. Let's talk about cool. For most of your life, cool has been defined for you, without your consent. It's the person who never sweats under pressure. The one who walks into a room and doesn't flinch. Calm, collected, dry. But maybe real cool isn't about the absence of reaction. Maybe it's about the presence of resilience. Because here's the truth they never told you. Staying dry isn't the same as staying strong. Containing everything inside until it eats away at your nervous system. That's not grace, that's repression. And you're the opposite. You don't bottle it. Your body speaks. Loudly. Immediately. Sweat is not your shame, it's your signal. Your honesty. Your heat. You feel life, and your body translates it into droplets. That's not a weakness. That's aliveness. Biologically, sweat is one of the most powerful, misunderstood tools we have. It's cooling, yes, but also cleansing. It's how your body regulates, resets, and releases. It's the reason marathon runners survive. It's how monks in intense meditation find balance in the heat. It's the ancient art of thermoregulation, something artificial intelligence still can't replicate. But society taught you to apologize for it, to shrink from it, to cover it with powders and sprays and silence. No more. What if cool isn't about staying dry, but about staying real? What if it's the person who feels everything and still keeps going? What if it's the one who knows their body, even the messy, sweaty parts, and walks through the world without pretending? True cool isn't a temperature. It's a truth. It's presence under pressure, not perfection under makeup. So here's your invitation. Don't shrink from your sweat. Step into it. It means your system is working. It means you're alive. It means you're here. And from now on, maybe that's what cool looks like. Shaky hands. Most people see a pair of shaky hands and immediately assume something's wrong. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's weakness. Maybe it's fear leaking out through the fingertips. But what if they've got it backwards? What if those tremors, the ones so many hide, apologize for, try to fix, are not signs of failure, but proof of effort, of pressure, of intention? What if shaky hands are the physical evidence of a person pushing through? It's easy to praise steady hands. They look confident, controlled, safe. But that's only because we've learned to associate stillness with competence, as if the absence of motion is always a good thing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We live in a world that respects results, not the cost. We reward clean signatures, firm handshakes, smooth deliveries, and overlook the strain it takes some people just to hold a fork without spilling. Shaky hands don't always come from fear. Sometimes they come from caring too much, trying too hard, from holding on when everything inside is telling you to let go. Maybe trembling hands don't mean you're falling apart. Maybe they mean you're still here, refusing to. Let's talk about control. Not the surface-level kind, but the daily, exhausting management it takes to live in a body that won't always do what you ask of it. People with tremors, or with hands that shake from conditions like essential tremor, Parkinson's, anxiety, or simply high stress, don't start their day thinking about control. They live it, constantly. From the moment they pick up a toothbrush to the second they try to key in a pin at checkout. What most don't realize is this: stability is work. And for some people, it's never automatic. Imagine reaching for a glass of water and having to calculate, in real time, how tightly to grip without breaking it, how fast to move without sloshing it over, how much to pretend you're not thinking about this stupid glass of water, so the person across the table doesn't get that look in their eyes. The one that says, "Are you okay?" Now imagine doing that 50 times a day. With keys, with buttons, with spoons, with eye contact. Shaky hands aren't laziness. They're the side effect of effort. They're the body's visible response to a brain that's running scenarios faster than it can stabilize its limbs. They're a coping mechanism you can see, but rarely understand unless you live it. What looks like fragility is often persistence. What looks like loss of control is sometimes the cost of trying to maintain it. Still hands are easy when the world isn't watching. Shaky hands mean you're doing the hard thing, even when it shows. Here's where it all turns. In most people's minds, movement means malfunction. A jittery hand equals instability. A tremble suggests a system that's failing. But the science and nature itself says something very different. In robotics, the most advanced machines aren't the ones that move like statues. They're the ones with tiny, constant micro-adjustments. Tiny, almost imperceptible corrections. These aren't flaws. They're signs of sensors doing their job, of a system tuned for feedback and adaptation, of intelligence. The same is true in the human body. Neuroscience has shown that subtle hand movements, even tremors, often arise from a brain that is deeply engaged in precision. When the brain is calculating and correcting in real time, during writing, drawing, surgery, even emotional stress, small oscillations in movement are often the byproduct of attention, not absence of it. Think of a musician's hand shaking slightly before they play a difficult piece. Think of a surgeon's hand hovering, steadying itself before the first cut. That momentary tremble? It's not weakness. It's anticipation. It's focus. It's the brain tuning the body for something that matters. In fact, researchers studying expert marksmen found that just before firing, slight tremors were not only common, they were expected. The most accurate shooters weren't the ones who eliminated movement entirely, but those who understood it and worked with it. So maybe shaky hands don't mean you're broken. Maybe they mean your system is alive, in motion, adjusting, sensing, responding. Not chaotic, but hyper-aware. We've been measuring success by stillness. But maybe movement is the truer sign of presence. Maybe tremors are what happens when your body refuses to go numb. We live in a world that idolizes control, but only a certain kind. It celebrates the calm speaker, the firm handshake, the clean signature, the steady hand that can pour wine without a ripple. It assumes that these are signs of someone together, someone who's got their life in order. Stillness, in this context, has become a visual shortcut for strength. And like most shortcuts, it's often wrong. Because what society rarely admits is how much of its definition of normal comes from convenience, not truth. Stillness is easier to understand. It looks like discipline, composure, readiness. Movement, on the other hand, makes people uncomfortable. It raises questions. It disrupts the image of predictability. But unpredictability is not the same as incapability. History is full of people who were dismissed because their bodies didn't match the image of calm perfection. Muhammad Ali's Parkinsonian tremor didn't erase his brilliance. Stephen Hawking's ALS didn't silence his mind. Temple Grandin's neurodivergence didn't limit her vision. It expanded what humanity could see. The problem isn't shaky hands. The problem is a society that associates external stillness with internal order and judges everything else as disorder. We forget that some of the most revolutionary minds have also been the most visibly different. And that difference wasn't their limitation. It was their lens. Low pain tolerance. We're often told that pain is something to fight, to conquer, and to endure. It's glorified in our culture. The tougher you are, the more you can withstand. The message is clear. If you feel pain and push through it, you're strong. But what if that's wrong? What if pain isn't just something to be endured or hidden? What if, in some ways, the people who feel pain the most, the ones who have a lower pain tolerance, are actually experiencing the world more deeply, more sensitively, in a way that others simply don't? We live in a world that celebrates strength, resilience, and endurance. But could it be that those who can't tolerate pain are actually more attuned to their bodies, more aware of their limits, more in touch with the signals their body is sending? Maybe those who feel the sting the most are actually the ones who are protecting themselves in ways the rest of us don't even understand. Maybe the real strength lies in knowing when to stop, when to listen, and when to take a step back, rather than in pushing through. Let's paint a picture of a morning that's all too familiar. You wake up and roll over, your body still heavy with sleep, but as you stretch, a sharp pain shoots through your lower back. It's not enough to stop you dead in your tracks, but it's there, a reminder that your body isn't working quite the way you want it to. You try to shake it off, but the ache lingers, settling like an unwelcome guest. You stand, and immediately your knees groan in protest. For most people, these are just passing sensations, fleeting discomforts that barely make a ripple in their day. For you, it's the start of an entire mental and emotional journey. The constant, nagging thoughts flood in. What if this isn't just a small pain? What if I'm overreacting? You've been here before, caught in the tension between knowing something hurts and questioning whether you should be this sensitive to it. Is this normal? Is this something everyone feels, but they just don't show? Or is it only you, somehow broken or fragile, caught in a body that betrays you at every turn? It's not just the physical pain that's difficult. It's the mental weight that comes with it. You might not even be able to tell anyone about it, because deep down, you know it might sound trivial. I'm just sore. You tell yourself it'll pass. But it doesn't. It sticks around, and suddenly you feel like the odd one out, like you're the only person in the room who is aware of the little aches, the sharp pokes, the tiniest pangs. It's an invisible burden, one that you carry quietly but never get credit for. How many times have you tried to push through, only to find yourself sitting on the edge of a chair, rubbing your temples, wondering if anyone else would notice if you just sat this one out? You see everyone else moving, laughing, living without hesitation. But for you, every movement, every step is carefully calculated. You don't take it for granted. You can't. You feel every step, every bend, every stretch in ways that others don't. And even though you know that other people are likely experiencing the same things, they move through life as if they're impervious, as if they don't feel the weight of their own body. The worst part, it's not even about the physical pain. It's the emotional toll it takes. You find yourself second-guessing your every move, unsure whether to ask for help when lifting something heavy or whether it's just you overreacting again. The feeling of inadequacy creeps in when you can't keep up with the rest of the world. You watch others shrug off aches and pains, power through the day like they're invincible, while you're left trying to manage your body's constant signals of distress. It's a subtle, constant hum of anxiety, always in the background, always reminding you that your body isn't built to withstand the same things as theirs. And then there's the quiet isolation, the unspoken fear of being judged. No one says anything, but you can feel their eyes on you, wondering why you're not tougher, why you need to take a break, why you can't handle something so small. It's hard to explain because to them, it's nothing. They don't get that every little twinge you feel is amplified, that you don't just experience pain. You absorb it, internalize it, and it affects everything. There's a loneliness in that, a silence that speaks louder than any words. You're left feeling like you don't belong, like you're the only one who can't handle what seems so easy for everyone else. But the truth is, it's not weakness. It's not a flaw. It's a reality that many don't understand. The reality of living with a body that seems to amplify pain, a body that doesn't get the luxury of simply brushing it off. You don't just feel pain. You live with it, every moment, like a shadow that follows you, unseen by the world, but ever present in your life. What if I told you that your sensitivity to pain, the very thing that feels like a curse, could actually be your superpower? You've always known that your pain tolerance isn't like everyone else's. For most, it's something that's either endured or ignored, a brief interruption to their day that they can shake off. But for you, it's different. You feel it all. You're attuned to every ache, every strain, every twinge. It's almost as if your body is a finely tuned instrument, alert to every nuance, every signal of distress. And while it may feel like a burden, that heightened sensitivity may be your body's way of keeping you safe. Think about it for a moment. Your lower pain tolerance isn't a sign of weakness. It's an early warning system. It's your body sending you messages that others might miss. Signals that tell you when something is wrong, when to stop, and when to rest. That constant awareness is a form of self-preservation. Your body is trying to protect you, to keep you from going beyond your limits, from pushing too far and risking injury. You might not realize it, but while others are pushing through pain, your body is gently whispering, "It's time to take a step back." And this isn't just theory. Studies show that those who experience pain more intensely are often more aware of their body's signals in general. They're better at understanding the fine line between discomfort and injury, giving them a better chance to avoid long-term damage. Think of it as a form of heightened self-awareness, an ability to listen to your body in ways that others can't. Let's take a moment to consider athletes, for example. Those who train at the highest levels, who endure grueling workouts day after day, often know exactly where their pain threshold lies. And for some of them, having a lower pain tolerance might actually be an advantage. They're not ignoring the pain, they're listening to it. They're attuned to it. By acknowledging the pain early, they're able to adjust their movements, avoid overexertion, and protect their bodies from long-term wear and tear. For you, this sensitivity can be just as beneficial. While others might not feel the pain until it's too late, you are hyper-aware. You can recognize when things are amiss in your body long before they escalate into something more serious. You might not see it now, but this awareness is a tool. It's your body's way of keeping you safe, of ensuring that you don't push beyond your breaking point. In a world that celebrates endurance at all costs, your heightened sensitivity to pain could very well be your key to longevity, both physically and emotionally. Society has long had a love affair with toughness, resilience, and endurance. We idolize the people who can push through pain, who can work harder longer, without letting anything stop them. It's in our movies, in our history books, in the way we talk about success. No pain, no gain. We hear over and over again. But what if this mindset is fundamentally flawed? What if we've been so focused on enduring pain that we've lost sight of its true purpose, its role in our survival? For centuries, the world has celebrated the stoic, the unflinching, the ones who endure in silence. These people are seen as the strong ones, the role models, the ones who can handle the pressures of life without breaking a sweat. But in doing so, society has created an unrealistic ideal, one that overlooks the fact that pain is not something to be hidden or ignored. It's something to be listened to, understood, and respected. When you have a lower pain tolerance, society often labels you as weak, as fragile. The underlying message is clear. If you can't handle pain, you're not strong enough. But what if the truth is the exact opposite? What if the ability to recognize your limits and respond to pain in a healthy, measured way is actually a form of strength? In a world that celebrates pushing through discomfort, it's easy to forget that pain is a tool, a signal, not something to be ignored or silenced. History, if we look closely, has often shown that the outliers, the ones who didn't fit the mold of toughness, were the ones who truly understood the human experience. Think of great thinkers like Albert Einstein or Charles Darwin, both of whom were sensitive, introspective individuals, not known for their physical endurance, but for their ability to see things differently. They didn't push through life with a stoic resolve. They understood the value of taking a step back, of questioning what others took for granted. In many ways, they were in touch with their vulnerabilities, and it was that very sensitivity that allowed them to see the world in a way others couldn't. Even in the medical field, modern research is slowly starting to recognize the value of being attuned to one's body. Doctors now understand that chronic pain isn't just a condition to be tolerated or fixed. It's a communication tool, a way the body tells us that something is wrong. We've moved away from the old mindset that pain is something to simply push through. Instead, we're learning to respect pain, to listen to it, and to use it as a guide for better health. So why, then, has society placed such a high value on the ability to endure without complaint? It's easy to see why. Endurance is outwardly visible. It's measurable. But listening to your body, truly understanding its limits, isn't as obvious. And that's where society got it wrong. By elevating the ability to endure pain over the ability to listen to it, we've been blind to the fact that real strength lies not in enduring without thought, but in responding with wisdom and care. The truth is, We've been conditioned to see toughness as invulnerability. But being vulnerable, recognizing your pain, accepting it, and taking steps to prevent it from controlling your life, might be the truest form of strength there is. What if the true measure of strength isn't about how much you can bear, but how well you can listen to the signals your body is giving you? What if strength is found in knowing when to stop, when to rest, and when to honor your limits? We've spent so much time in a world that celebrates pushing past discomfort, enduring pain, and powering through, but what if that mindset has been holding us back all along? What if it's not about ignoring the pain, but understanding it, respecting it, and using it as a compass to navigate the world more consciously? Imagine for a moment the possibilities if we redefine strength. Strength is not in the ability to bear unbearable pain. Strength is in the wisdom to recognize when your body is telling you it needs care. It's the ability to step back, to pause, to replenish, knowing that you're not weak for doing so. You're simply being wise. Think of the countless times you've felt misunderstood. Those moments when you've been told you're not tough enough. When your body's natural responses to pain were seen as something to overcome instead of something to understand. What if I told you that feeling the discomfort, acknowledging it, and acting upon it, whether by resting, adjusting, or seeking help, makes you more resilient, not less? Pain isn't a sign of your weakness. It's a tool to help you live a fuller, healthier life. Your sensitivity to pain, the thing you've always wished you could ignore or hide, is your gift. It's your body's way of telling you exactly where it stands, of guiding you to make choices that promote long-term well-being. While others push themselves until they break, you have the rare gift of self-awareness, of knowing when to step back and protect yourself from the invisible damage that can accumulate over time. Your body's signals are there for a reason, and by honoring them, you can avoid the kind of burnout that others might never see coming. There's something incredibly powerful in listening to your body, in recognizing that you don't need to be invincible to thrive. You don't need to endure the unendurable to prove your worth. Real strength lies in self-awareness, in tuning into your body's needs, and in making choices that prioritize your health and well-being over the fleeting notion of toughness. Maybe, just maybe, your pain tolerance is a feature, not a flaw. Maybe it's your body's way of keeping you whole, of helping you make better choices, of protecting you from burnout or injury. Your sensitivity to pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It gives you the chance to adapt, to adjust, and to live a life that's sustainable and fulfilling, without risking everything in the name of toughness. So, the next time you feel the sharp reminder of your limits, take a moment to recognize it not as a setback, but as a sign of your resilience. You don't need to be invincible to navigate life's challenges. You just need to be aware, and you're already a step ahead. Sensitive stomach. The bold truth no one talks about. We live in a world that glorifies iron stomachs. The kind of people who can scarf down street food in a foreign country, chug mystery cocktails at a party, survive on instant noodles, and still smile the next morning. They're seen as normal, strong, easygoing. But if your stomach flinches at dairy, winces at garlic, and outright panics at spicy food, the message is loud and clear. You're the problem. That's the myth we swallowed. That health is about eating everything. That strength is measured by tolerance, and that sensitivity equals weakness. If your gut can't keep up, then you're labeled fussy, high maintenance, or just a hypochondriac with a Google degree. But what if that idea is completely backwards? What if having a sensitive stomach doesn't make you fragile? What if it makes you aware? You see, the gut isn't just a tube that breaks down food. It's a living, reactive, intelligent system. It contains over 100 million neurons. It makes more serotonin than your brain. It communicates constantly, sending messages not just about digestion, but about safety, threat, stress, and emotion. When your gut reacts, it's not malfunctioning. It's speaking, loudly, urgently, with purpose. But somewhere along the way, we stopped listening. We trained ourselves to be numb. Eat it anyway. Push through the discomfort. Don't make a scene. We idolized the people who could swallow anything and feel nothing. And in doing so, we turned away from one of the body's most powerful messengers. Now, let's talk about what it's actually like to live with a sensitive stomach. Not just in the medical sense, but in the human sense. It starts the moment you wake up. You scan your body before your eyes are even open. Is it going to be a good gut day or a battlefield? You choose breakfast like it's a tactical decision, because it is. Toast. Safe. Eggs. Maybe. Coffee. A risk you're not sure you can afford today. And the decisions don't stop there. Invited to lunch with coworkers? You hesitate, not because you're antisocial, but because the restaurant menu is a minefield. You're doing mental gymnastics while pretending to laugh at their jokes. Does this dish have onions? Is it cooked in butter? Can I get it without the sauce? The waiter raises an eyebrow. You feel the heat of judgment. Again, you nod along in meetings while your stomach roils in silent protest. You go on dates pretending you're just not hungry. You keep emergency ginger chews in your pocket, like someone else might carry pepper spray, just in case. And then there's the shame, the part that hurts more than the cramps. The endless self-questioning. Am I overreacting? Am I imagining this? Why can't I just be normal? But you're not imagining it. Your experience is real. You live with a body that reacts intensely, unpredictably, and often invisibly. And every day, you navigate a world that's designed for the digestive average. While your system operates like a high-sensitivity alarm, the world doesn't see this battle. But you fight it every single day. And that takes strength. For years, you've been taught to treat your stomach like a rebellious child. It grumbles too much, panics too fast, and ruins plans without warning. You've tried silencing it with pills, masking it with bland food, even bargaining with it. Just behave for one night, please. But what if the problem isn't your gut? What if the problem is that we've been trained not to listen? See, your digestive system isn't just some passive food processing machine. It's part of an ancient, complex communication system known as the gut-brain axis, a two-way superhighway connecting your intestines and your central nervous system. Your gut can detect changes in stress levels before your mind does. It reacts to anxiety, grief, fear, and even excitement, not just with butterflies, but with chemical shifts and muscular contractions. It's your body's first responder, the early warning system. And when your gut flares up, it's not betraying you. It's alerting you. A sensitive stomach may seem like a malfunction to outsiders, but to a trained eye, it's actually a hyper-attuned diagnostic tool. It reacts because it's absorbing not just food, but information. Stressful environment, it tightens. Toxic people, it churns. Unprocessed emotions, it knots itself into a fist and holds on. You might think you're just reacting to that greasy sandwich, but your body knows what your calendar doesn't. That your deadline is crushing, your sleep is wrecked, and that your gut is absorbing it all. Every time. That discomfort, it's your body raising its hand and whispering, "Hey, something's not right." In a culture that praises numbness and dismisses intuition, a sensitive gut is inconvenient. But it's also one of the most honest parts of you. And maybe, it's not the one who needs to change. Here's something people rarely say out loud. Living with a sensitive stomach teaches you boundaries in a way few other things can. Not the polite kind. Not the trendy, Instagram quote kind. But real, hard, inconvenient boundaries. The kind that interrupt dinners, cut short parties, and turn yes into sorry, I can't. Because your gut doesn't care about social pressure. It doesn't care that it's your friend's birthday or your boss just ordered appetizers for the table. If something doesn't sit right, your body will let you know. And the more you listen to it, the more you realize boundaries aren't a weakness. They're a survival skill, a sacred act of self-respect. Where others can bluff their way through things, overcommitting, overeating, ignoring the quiet screams of their bodies. You don't have that luxury. You've had to learn what works for you. You've had to research, adjust, adapt, advocate. You've had to decline, question, prepare. And yes, it's exhausting, but it's also something extraordinary. You've become someone who pays attention to patterns, to people, to places, to pain. You've learned to anticipate your needs before things spiral. You've built routines that protect your energy. You've practiced saying no and meaning it. And in a world that worships overindulgence, burnout, and constant hustle, that's not fragility. That's wisdom. Your body didn't make you weaker. It made you precise. It made you mindful. It made you sovereign. What you've built that others can't even see. Strength doesn't always look like lifting weights or eating ghost peppers without flinching. Sometimes it looks like restraint. Sometimes it looks like turning down what everyone else is enjoying because you know how much it would cost you later. Real strength is invisible most of the time, especially when it's lived through the body. It's the strength to show up at the family gathering, even though the menu is a nightmare, and still find a way to connect. It's the strength to ask, once again, what oil do you use in that? Even though you hate being that person. It's the strength to sit with the frustration, the shame, the longing, and still choose what's best for your body instead of what's easiest for the moment. And it's the strength to rebuild yourself after every flare-up. Because living with a sensitive stomach doesn't give you an easy script. It forces you to become a detective, a student, a planner, a protector. You research ingredients while others scan the menu. You carry snacks just in case. You excuse yourself gracefully when the symptoms return. And even when it feels like your own body has turned against you, you don't. You work with it. You adapt. You don't have the luxury of ignoring your body. But maybe that's the real advantage. Where others are just starting to learn how to listen to themselves, you've been fluent in the language of discomfort for years. You know your body's boundaries. You know when to pause, when to soften, when to slow down. And in that practice, you've cultivated a skill most people never master. Self-respect. Not the kind that shows up in motivational posters. The kind that's quiet, consistent, and fiercely loyal. So no, your stomach isn't broken. It's just not built for a world that encourages you to numb your needs. But your sensitivity? That's not your curse. It's your compass. And if you've survived this long, learned this much, and protected yourself this fiercely, that's not weakness. That's power. Uncontrollable blushing. Before you even say a word, your face does. In a split second, before you've had the chance to craft a sentence, smooth your posture, or put on your best neutral expression, your skin blushes. A flush, a flicker, a full-on alarm of color across your cheeks, ears, neck. And suddenly, everything you wanted to keep inside is broadcast in crimson. For most people, the face is a mask, a tool of control. They can look calm while nervous, cold while burning, polite while boiling. But for some, the mask refuses to cooperate. For those who blush uncontrollably, the face doesn't wait for permission. It reacts faster than thought, faster than logic, faster than comfort. It's like your body has skipped the meeting and made the announcement itself. And the world sees that as weakness. We've been trained to believe composure is power, that to show nothing is strength. We admire the poker face, the icy gaze, the cool exterior. So what does that make the person who can't hide how they feel? Embarrassing? Fragile? Too much. We're taught to believe it's a flaw, that something is wrong, that we should be able to shut it off like a light switch or medicate it into silence. But what if the blushing face wasn't the problem? What if it's the most honest thing in the room? You're in a conversation. Everything seems normal until it isn't. Someone makes a comment. You feel eyes on you. Or worse, you realize you're about to speak. Maybe you didn't even feel that nervous, but suddenly the heat blooms. Fast. Unstoppable. It's like your skin has its own storm system, complete with thunder, lightning, and a tidal wave of heat that rises to your face in under a second. You don't have time to reason with it. You just are it. You feel it before you see it, hot and uninvited, like a secret being spilled without your consent. And then the real spiral begins. They notice. They comment. Why are you so red? Ah, look, you're blushing. Are you okay? Suddenly the moment isn't about what you said or what you were doing. It's about your reaction to it. Now it's a show, and you're the unwilling performer. The more you want it to stop, the worse it gets. Trying not to blush is like trying not to fall when you're already halfway down the stairs. But the worst part, it's not just the heat in your face. It's the self-consciousness that comes after. The dread that it will happen again, even when nothing's wrong. So you start to avoid eye contact. You skip speaking in meetings. You laugh things off even when you want to stand your ground. All to keep that red flood at bay. And no one else sees it. Not really. To them, it's a fleeting color. A quirk, a silly blip. They don't feel the tightness in your chest, the panic racing ahead of you, the feeling that your body just outed you again. They don't understand that when your face turns red, it's not just a symptom. It's a betrayal. We think language lives in the mouth. That communication is what we say, what we write, what we explain. But for some people, the most honest form of communication happens underneath the skin. Blushing isn't just random. It's not some cosmetic malfunction. It's your nervous system whispering in neon red. It's your body's way of saying, I care. I'm scared. I feel exposed. Or sometimes, I'm alive. Uncontrollable blushing happens when the sympathetic nervous system, the same one that triggers your fight or flight response, floods your face with blood in response to emotion, attention, or vulnerability. For most, it's a brief flush. For some, it's a spotlight they didn't ask for. But think about it. This reaction only exists because your brain is deeply tuned to what's happening. It's not a glitch. It's sensitivity in its most physical form. A face that blushes uncontrollably is a face that's constantly translating the internal world, feelings, fears, empathy, excitement, directly into the external one. Blushing is proof that your body is connected to your truth. And in a world where so many fake it, mask it, mute it, that kind of transparency is rare. There's a kind of honesty in blushing that no speech can match. You can lie with your words. You can lie with your smile. But you can't lie with a blush. It's the most involuntary kind of truth. And that in itself is powerful. We live in a culture obsessed with control. Emotional control. Body control. Image control. We reward people who can remain calm under pressure, who don't let their feelings show, who present is bulletproof. So naturally, a face that betrays emotion, that's seen as a weakness, a failure of discipline, a thing to be fixed. But what if the very idea of control is what's broken? We treat emotional control as a virtue, but more often than not, it's just fear in a different outfit. Control isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just suppression. And the people who blush uncontrollably, they're often the ones who feel deeply, who care too much, who burn with awareness. Blushing isn't about lacking control. It's about having none of the emotional insulation the world expects. Where others build walls, the blusher feels everything. Every nuance in the room. Every shift in attention. Every flicker of judgment. They live without armor, and that doesn't make them fragile. That makes them real. We misunderstand sensitivity as volatility. But the truth is, sensitivity is one of the most accurate instruments for reading the world. It picks up what others miss, not just in others, but in themselves. A blush isn't failure. It's feedback. And maybe what's needed isn't more control, but more compassion. More space for the people who don't get to hide. More respect for those whose bodies refuse to lie. More love for the faces that speak, before the mouth ever opens. Imagine for a moment that every time you blush, you're not just reacting to the environment. You're communicating on a deeper level. Your body isn't just vulnerable. It's transparent in a way that most people can only wish for. Blushing happens when your autonomic nervous system kicks into overdrive. That same system that controls your heartbeat, your digestion, and your reflexes suddenly makes your cheeks flare in a beautiful, albeit inconvenient burst of color. It's your body's instant reaction to emotion, to presence, to connection. It's a signal sent out to the world that you are engaged, fully present, and aware of the human currents swirling around you. The superpower in this? The ability to feel everything with an intensity and authenticity that most people can only dream of. You don't just see the world, you experience it. You don't just talk to people, you connect with them in a raw, unscripted way. When your face betrays you, it's like sending a signal that says, I am here, I am with you. And that, in itself, is a form of emotional transparency that others often lack. What if you stopped seeing your blush as a weakness? What if, instead of trying to hide it, you embraced it as a gift? Think about it. It's the one part of you that refuses to lie. When you blush, you're showing the world what you feel in a moment, pure, unfiltered honesty. It's a language of the heart, not just the mind. The ability to let the world see what's inside without the veil of artifice is rare. And if cultivated, it can be an incredible strength. People trust those who are open. They trust those who are real. A person who blushes uncontrollably is someone who is vulnerable but authentic. They've let down their guard and shown others a glimpse of the truth. Their humanity, their sensitivity, their emotional depth. In a world of social masks, there's power in those who refuse to hide. There's strength in vulnerability. The person who blushes isn't running from their emotions. They're walking through them, exposing their heart to the world, and the world responds. They become a magnetic force, drawing others in, not through pretense or perfection, but through sheer emotional presence. And here's the key. When you embrace the signal, you transform it. You no longer fear it. You let it be the very thing that sets you apart, a superpower that others can only envy. When you feel the flush rising, don't shy away. Stand taller. Let it be a badge of courage. You are someone who feels deeply, and in a world that often feels numb, that's something to celebrate. You don't need to hide your face. Your blush tells the world something profound. You're not afraid to be real, to be open, to show up with your whole self. And that's something no amount of control can ever truly replicate. Over-apologizing. It starts so quietly, no one even notices. Not even you. You're in line at a cafe, someone bumps into you from behind, and without thinking, you blurt, "Sorry." You're in a meeting. You speak up. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence. You smile, raise your hand slightly, and say, "Sorry, just wanted to add." You take too long choosing a snack in the grocery aisle. A stranger sighs behind you. "Sorry," you whisper, stepping aside. The word is everywhere, not as a genuine apology, but as a reflex, a habit, a shield, a social lubricant, and slowly, quietly, it becomes something more, a way of existing. You learn to say it before your opinion, before your question, before your boundary. "Sorry, but can I?" "Sorry, I just thought." "Sorry, I didn't mean to be too much." You apologize for things that aren't wrong, for taking up time, for needing help, for being visible. And over time, sorry becomes a kind of ritual, a way of shrinking before anyone even asks you to. But here's the thing. Every time you lead with sorry, you're doing something else too. You're asking for permission to exist. You're making yourself smaller, just enough so you don't make anyone else uncomfortable. Not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that being too loud, too confident, too sure could cost you something: affection, safety, belonging. And so sorry becomes your camouflage, a spell you cast to stay acceptable, agreeable, unproblematic. You disappear just a little bit, so you won't be asked to leave the room entirely. No one talks about what over-apologizing does over time, because each sorry feels so small, so harmless. Just a syllable, just politeness, just good manners. But they add up, like grains of sand in your shoes. They don't seem like much until you realize you're limping. It's in the email you reread 5 times before sending, making sure it's not too blunt. It's in the way you ask a question like it's a favor. It's in the way you preface your boundary with 10 layers of softness. You're not just saying sorry. You're signaling, "Please don't be upset with me. Please don't think I'm difficult. Please let me stay in your good graces." Each unnecessary sorry chips away at something. Your confidence, your authority, your ability to stand in a room without folding yourself in half. People don't always see it. They may not even notice you're doing it. That's the cruel irony of over-apologizing. You're trying to be seen as considerate, but you're slowly becoming invisible. A pleasant ghost. Always careful. Always kind. Always fading. You start to wonder, deep down, if people like you, or if they just like that you're easy to like. Because you've learned how to soften your edges, smooth your voice, shrink your needs. You've become excellent at not being a burden. But in the process, you've forgotten how to be whole. And no one teaches you how to stop. Because in a world that rewards politeness more than presence, invisibility starts to feel like virtue. But it's not. It's just a quiet kind of erasure. And you deserve better than to vanish in slow motion. To untangle a behavior, you have to dig beneath it. Over-apologizing doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not a quirk, not just a bad habit. It's a survival strategy, written into your nervous system by experiences you probably barely remember. Maybe you were the child who watched tension rise like smoke between adults and learned that staying quiet was safer than speaking up. Maybe you were praised when you were easygoing and corrected when you were too much. Maybe you grew up in a culture or a home where your value came from how well you managed everyone else's comfort. So you adapted, brilliantly, quietly. You learned that sorry was a kind of social currency, a way to smooth the sharp edges of other people's reactions, a way to keep the peace, avoid conflict, stay likable. You learned that shrinking was safer than standing tall. And here's the wild part, it worked. People responded better. You got praise for being so considerate. You were seen as agreeable, polite, kind, all virtues. And they are virtues, but not when they come at the cost of your identity. Because over-apologizing isn't just about saying sorry. It's about the belief behind it. That your presence is disruptive. That your needs are too much. That your truth must always be softened, minimized, delayed. These roots are deep, emotional, cultural, often gendered, often tied to trauma. And most of all, they are not your fault. But if you want to stop disappearing, you have to trace that reflex back to its origin. And ask yourself, when did I learn that I had to earn the right to exist? Every time you say sorry, when you mean thank you. Every time you say sorry for taking up space. Every time you say sorry, just to make someone else more comfortable. You give away a little piece of your power. Not the flashy kind of power. Not control or dominance. But the deeper kind, your inner authority. The sense that your voice matters, that your time is valid, that your emotions deserve to be heard without apology or disguise. And here's what no one tells you. Power doesn't leave in one dramatic moment. It leaks, quietly, through the cracks of 1,000 softened statements. Through every moment you step aside, hold back, or rephrase your truth to avoid discomfort. And while those around you might never notice, you do. You start second-guessing. You start needing others to validate your choices. You start apologizing just to preempt conflict that hasn't even happened. And soon, you find yourself playing small in places you were meant to shine. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Because the opposite of over-apologizing isn't becoming rude or cold or inconsiderate. It's becoming clear. It's standing in your truth without shrinking. It's learning that confidence and kindness can live in the same sentence. It's replacing "sorry I'm late" with "thank you for waiting." It's choosing your words like someone whose voice matters. Because it does. You've been leaking power, not because you're weak, but because you were trained to survive by being small. But survival is not the same as living. And now, it's time to live differently. If over-apologizing is a map you were handed, then redrawing the lines starts with learning how to chart your own. Not to burn bridges, not to build walls, but to build boundaries, something many of us were never taught. Especially if we were raised to prioritize peace over self. But boundaries aren't about pushing others away. They're about bringing yourself closer. Imagine this. You walk into a conversation not with your shields up, but with your feet firmly planted. You know what you need. You know what you don't. And for the first time, you're not bending to fit the moment. You're shaping the moment with your presence. It begins with the smallest shifts. Not apologizing for speaking up in a meeting. Not shrinking your tone when stating a boundary. Not labeling your needs as silly or dramatic or too much. It means learning to say, "I need a moment to think," instead of "sorry, I'm slow." "That didn't sit right with me," instead of "sorry, maybe I'm being sensitive." No, full stop, without a paragraph of justification. Every time you make one of these swaps, you redraw the lines of how you relate to yourself and others. You stop offering an apology for your existence and start offering something far more valuable: clarity. And clarity changes everything. It invites respect. It sets tone. It models strength for others who've been quietly erasing themselves, too. Boundaries are not bricks. They're mirrors. They show people, and yourself, who you are and what you value. You don't stop being kind. You stop being invisible. For years, you may have moved like a ghost, slipping through moments, muting yourself before anyone could object. You floated between other people's comfort zones, quietly asking permission just to be. But what if your presence was never the problem? What if it was your gravity all along? Your instinct to smooth the edges, your deep empathy, your awareness of every emotional shift in the room. Those aren't flaws. They're signals of your sensitivity. And sensitivity, when owned instead of apologized for, becomes intuition. It becomes leadership. It becomes power. You were never too much. You were never a burden. But you were taught to believe that staying small was the safest way to belong. Here's the truth. You belong. Even when you're not sorry. Even when you say no. Even when your voice shakes, but you speak anyway. The world does not need another ghost in the room. It needs your gravity. So take back your words. Take up your space. And if you must say sorry, say it when you truly mean it, not when you're trying to disappear. You are not here to vanish. You are here to matter.